Welcome back to The Muster Point, the podcast where veterans regroup, swap war stories, and try to navigate civvy life without accidentally calling their boss sir. I'm Stu Mendelson, former Royal Engineer, expert in demolitions, and a man who once spent 30 minutes trying to start a car that wasn't even mine. And with me, as usual, is my co-host, Steve Black, ex-Royal Tank Regiment, a man who still walks at forced march pace through Tesco's and thinks carry on is an acceptable way to end a meeting.
Cheers, Stu. At least I don't instinctively stand to attention when someone's saying morning. But yeah, today we're diving into life after service, the good, the bad and the bizarre. From job interviews to realising no one cares if you've ironed your jeans. Leaving the military is a culture shock.
And don't get me started on how bloody slow civvies walk. We'll cover everything from finding purpose to why some of us still refuse to sit with our backs to the door.
We've also got listeners' stories about the biggest post-military shocks, some smooth landings and some absolute train wrecks.
So buckle up, this is the muster point, where the banter is relentless, the civvy world is confusing, and today we're figuring out if we'll ever really fit in outside the wire.
Right, let's get into it before Stu starts another rant about civvies in their weak tea.
Right, welcome back to the muster point, everyone.
Hello.
How you doing, Steve?
Yeah, good mate. You?
Yeah, I'm good. Episode 7. And the usual question I open with is, what have you been up to this week, Steve?
Working.
Working.
I've been overhauling.
Hell, working.
My line's, I work on a production line. My line's been down, so I've been taking advantage of the downtime and overhauling a labelling machine.
Excellent. So the muster point breakfast on Tuesday was the biggest yet. I think we had a total of 27 people there, made up of veterans, and we had several carers because the local care home sent 4, I think it was, of their veterans, which was amazing. I have to give a shout out to my old mate Charlie Brown, Steve Brown, who's posted up at 3-2 Engineer Regiment in Catterick. He says he's loving the podcast, and so are some of the blokes. So, hello, 3-2 Engineer Regiment.
Hello. What do they do?
Engineering.
What does that involve, though? Is that
Well, you know, the usual Gucci shit, like blowing shit up, clearing minefields, bridges, building shitters and showers, yeah. All the standard engineering stuff.
Most of the engineers I had experience with drove bridge layers and things like that. You know,
Yeah.
Is it Averies and Ables?
Yeah.
Areas, all that really fun-looking stuff.
Yeah.
But I didn't really have experience with the bog builders.
Yeah, that's they're armoured engineers.
Yeah.
To be fair, they've all swapped round. 'Cause when I was in, there wasn't an engineer regiment in Catterick. So they've all moved around, so I couldn't tell you specifically what they do
I
there.
think when I was in, I don't remember them in Germany, to be fair, but I remember in Tidworth. I don't think there was any there, but there was at Ludgershall. Was just
Yeah. Ludgershall,
that was armoured.
Yeah, possibly. Everyone's armoured down that way, isn't they?
Yeah, I think all tracked regiments are in Tidworth.
Yeah.
That way.
I got sent a picture from my son this week, and I've got mixed opinions. So I'm between proud father and absolutely wanting to ruin the little shit because he signed up to become a air cadet.
What?
I know, yeah. And he sent me a picture of him he's just been issued his uniform, and he stood there in his beret. I think the cap badge was over the wrong eye. It looked like he could land a helicopter on it.
Yeah, it looked like Frank Spencer.
Yeah, exactly. So he come around this weekend, and I shaped his beret for him. And
should have done it the wrong way round.
Yeah.
His beret badge over the left eye. The right eye, sorry.
I had to bleach my hands afterwards for touching that.
Yeah, I would.
But now I am proud of him.
Do you know what, though? Any youth organisation
Yeah.
is great. And it gets them, not gets them off the street, because they're not all little hood rats.
Yeah.
But-
You ain't met my son.
You know what? It just gives them a bit of a belonging, doesn't it? It instills that sort of pride in their appearance, and things like that. So
I guess if the worst thing he does in his life is join the air cadets, I'll be proud.
Yeah, but he'll learn how to polish his boots, and look after his kit. Like, he's going to learn something, map reading.
Yeah. I've already ordered, what is it, the bottle of...
Clear,
that's it. I've already ordered that.
give him a head start.
And to be fair, so last week he was learning about the phonetic alphabet, and he turns around to me and he goes, "Dad, do you know the phonetic alphabet?" And I'm like, "Of course I do, son."
Funny enough, I help out at stores in the Army Cadets where I live, and my nephew was in the Air Cadets. So they're not called Air Cadets, are they? Is it Air Training Corps?
Yeah, air training.
Anyway, so
something like
he
that.
lives in York, so he come down for the week, and I took him along, and he done some map reading with them, and obviously do it different in the Air Cadets.
Do they? Yeah.
I don't know. But anyway, they said to me, nephew, can you set the map to ground? He said, yeah. So go on then, meaning, you set the map up so it's
orientated.
Yeah. He put the map on the ground and stepped back. And I went, well, you don't even have to put it on the ground. Bless him.
Did you thrash him after that?
I beat him up.
Yeah. Willy Bum. What was it?
Grand Willy Bum tagged him. Yeah.
Funny enough, I had a Facebook message, and it must have been off one of your mates. There was no context to it. It just said, off ground Willy Bum tag, you're it. I was like, cheers, mate.
I've seen a few posts though, and people are mentioning it now. It's quite funny. I think it was just a tanky thing. I think it was just a second Royal Tank Regiment thing, but let's bring it back.
Yeah, bring it back, definitely.
It's a great game.
Yeah. It's when you're in the shower at home and then you turn around, your missus is doing it to you.
I hope she ain't got a willy.
How long you been married and you ain't worked it out yet? I've also had some positive. I mean, to be fair, all the feedback's been positive. I've got a voice note from Mick Knowles, so let's listen to that.
No, just keep doing what you're doing, mate. It's the muster point's great. The podcast is great. What you're doing in Stevenage sounds great, and hopefully, at some point, if I get down there on a Tuesday, I'll call in and see us for a brew.
So that was a really positive voice note from Mick Knowles. I've also had other comment from blokes saying that we're really giving them a laugh and reminding them about some of the funny times that happened when they served, because for so long they've been stuck in that headspace where they're fixated on Iraq and Afghan, and suddenly it's like, wow, I do remember this. So it's all positive.
Yeah, I've had the same people mates have messaged me saying, like you say, the negative side of the army is Iraq and Afghanistan, the sad times, but also there was a lot of fun times.
Yeah,
and we're bringing up all these funny stories, and it's bringing back good memories as well. Rab messaged in. He said about Chizard last week mentioned an inspection in the field when he had a CWS, which I'd like to let everyone know is a common weapons site, the night site, because my wife did ask.
Yeah.
Anyway, he said Chizard mentioned that he had 90 minutes to get ready for an inspection. And he said,
he did, didn't he?
He did. I don't know how we didn't pick that up at the time. I think that's disgraceful, because we used to get about 5 minutes. Like, one of you would be cooking the other one's food. You'd be cleaning his rifle while he's cooking your food.
Yeah.
And there was never enough time. Whereas the RAF get 90 minutes.
And he still didn't get it right.
I know. And still didn't get his weapon ready for inspection. So sort it out, RAF.
Yeah. But Chizard, for all his misgivings of shit field admin, he's a bit of a lady's favourite, isn't he?
Yeah.
So my missus has now admitted that he's got a beautiful voice.
Yeah, so has mine.
So that's my missus, your missus, and
Claire from York.
So, wow,
yeah.
I don't know what to say. Well done, Chizard. He's not here today.
Yeah,
but...
and I noticed something else when I was listening as well. When he finished his training, he said he graduated from training.
Fuck, man. How much?
We passed out of training. He graduated.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just disappointed we didn't pick this up at the time.
And I don't think we should get him back. I think we should sack him.
Maybe we'll have a vote.
Yeah.
What do you reckon, listeners?
He'll only interject and...
Yeah. No, I interject. Fuck me. Right, other stuff that's gone on this week. I saw Ian Duncan Smith, ex-member of Parliament, or he could still be a member of Parliament, I don't fucking know, Conservative. He was on Good Morning Britain, and they're talking about what's going on in Ukraine and the British government possibly sending boots on the ground and talking about national service. And he turns around and he says he'd be proud and honoured and fully supportive if his kids wanted to join the forces, and he'd be proud for them to go out and fight on the ground. And it wound me up, because I just think it's like a bollocks comment, because his kids, with their trust funds and all that, they're never going to do it, are they?
Nah.
So it's like, why is he saying it?
Yeah. These people, they think they know what we're about. He hasn't got a clue.
I noticed on these TV programmes, the people they have commentating on it are so far removed. They're either very wealthy, ex-officers. It's like, you've got no concept. And it made me think, and I've reached out to my sister, because my sister was the family member that took the knock on the door after I got blown up. I said to her, obviously it's going to be tough for her to speak about it and me to talk about it, to be fair, but like this Ian Duncan Smith and all these wealthy commentators that are happy to send young lads and lasses to war, like they've got no fear of having this knock on the door. I don't know. I just think it comes back to that saying of like, war is the game of the rich, played with the blood of the poor.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure because of who he is and that, if his kids did join the military, they're not going to be in an infantry platoon. They're going to, I don't know, some
They'll
job.
be officers or like...
But I'll say not even, platoon commander sort of, It's just, I don't know, they'll have some high-flying job, wouldn't they? I don't really agree with the national service thing. I do think it's a great idea, but not as it was as such. I don't think having an army of conscripts, it doesn't make a good army.
Well, this is
it's desperation.
This to me is that thing of like when I was out in Afghan, the blokes that were around me, and I know we've spoke about some of the sprog blokes not being maybe as robust as the older lads, but everyone wanted to sign up. Everyone wanted, they took the King Shilling or whatever you call it. Whereas I don't want to be serving on the front line next to someone that's been made to go there.
Yeah. Same as I work with a bloke called John, and I don't know how old he is, maybe late 50s. He joined the army in the, I don't know, probably 80s. And basically he was a naughty boy when he was younger, nicking cars, all that sort of stuff. And he went to court and they said basically, join the army or you go to prison. So he joined the army. And he said it's the best thing ever, and he's really for national service because of that. However, when I was in the army, I wouldn't want to serve alongside someone. Nowadays, the biggest crime I'd say is the knife crime. And I wouldn't want to be around someone who's been carrying a knife, willing to stab an innocent person, young person, whatever. I wouldn't want that. I'd want everyone to be there. I don't care about criminals and say, everyone's got a past.
Yeah.
But if they're given the option to join the army or go to prison, I wouldn't want to be alongside that person.
I think it's that. The fact that they're having to even think about conscription, it's just a sign of, I guess, the general British public are disenfranchised. When you're told, you're not allowed to fly your Union flag in your garden and stuff like that, the suspicion of two-tier policing. Why would people want to be proud of being British and going to fight for their country?
Yeah, a lot of people I work with have said that, if a war did kick off, World War III, I wouldn't fight for this country. What's this country going to do for me?
Yeah, which is sad, isn't it?
It is. But hopefully people don't look at it like that. If it does.
Yeah. And the other thing that happened, I believe it was Friday, was the big Tommy sleep out.
Yeah, I've got a couple of mates who did that.
Okay. So it's run by the Royal British Legion Institute, which is different.
Yeah.
Different and separate to the Royal British Legion. Now, it's good that they're raising awareness. However, I went on their website because I thought, right, how many veterans are actually street homeless, rough sleeping? Because homelessness is classified as anybody sofa surfing, anyone at risk of eviction within 52 days. So homelessness is a big category. But actual street homeless is a different matter. And as you can probably imagine, it's quite hard to identify someone that is truly street homeless. But local authorities do as best they can collect the data. So on their website, it mentions that there are 7,000 street homeless veterans in the UK. And I thought, bloody hell.
Big number, isn't it?
That's a massive number. And bearing in mind the work I do in the drug and alcohol service locally has a rough sleepers team and are very engaged with that area. And I thought, 7,000 veterans rough sleeping. So I've done a bit of digging like I like to do. And as I said, don't get me wrong, to get the statistics and actually count the numbers, it is hard. But on the government website, collection of local area data, I think it was summer last year, was 3,500 in total rough sleepers.
Not just veterans.
Not just veterans, in total.
So where's that 7,500 come from then?
7,000.
Sorry, 7,000.
This is what I mean. I don't know. And for me, if you're going to quote a statistic, you reference where the data's come from.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It makes it legitimate. And to me, it just comes across as a bit of a sensationalisation. Like, don't get me wrong, any veteran, anyone. Like,
bear in mind, some choose to be homeless. Some enjoy being homeless. Or even because they have mental problems, they find it more comfortable, which is not acceptable. But I do get that. Especially when you see the RBL's headquarters. Okay, then again, like you say, this isn't the RBL, this is another part. But when you see Hague House I think it's near Borough Market, near London Bridge, it's an impressive building. And I went there on a weekend once because they've got this poppy centre that's meant to be open.
Okay.
And I thought I'd go in there and have a look what it's like so I can pass that information on to other people in the London branch of the Tank Regiment Association. And it was shut, but online it was shown as open.
Yeah. So
I contacted them and it's one of these things, again, they've got a service that they're advertising and it's not it's not available.
What is the service they're advertising?
They've got this poppy centre, which is like a drop-in type of centre. 'Cause
Okay.
in London, there is nothing. There's no
Yeah,
British
yeah.
Legion. In fact, I went past the British Legion yesterday in Ponders End in North London on my way from work, and it used to be a British Legion, and now it's been taken over as like an Islamic centre type thing.
Yeah.
And I get it. It's around that area, it's all Muslims. So you ain't going to get... The British Legion's not making our money, and I'm glad they've probably sold that and that money's been put back into the system, and I'm glad the Muslims have got somewhere to go. But there isn't nowhere, and I think sometimes these charities have to make a loss in areas, i.e. that area. Maybe that detachment, if that's what you call it, is making a loss. But oh well, it's providing a service for someone, and for them to get rid of it and sell it off, it's a bit sad. And like I say, where my mum lives, that one, there's a great big British Legion there, that's shut, and the social clubs are closing. Probably because they're not being used as much, and I do get that. But then that's down to the British Legion to up their game a bit, change it, have a bingo hall or something, like British Legion bingo.
Think outside the box.
Yeah, you've got some brilliant Mecca bingo and all that sort of stuff, and it's only £2.50 a pint.
Yeah.
So,
You and your alcohol, eh? You want to come see me at CGL?
Yeah. But I say this Poppy Centre at Hague House, it's close. It's just an empty shop, but you've got this massive building. It is really impressive.
Oh, what? So it's empty?
It's an empty shop, yeah.
But they're advertising it as a veterans drop-in.
On Google, it is advertised, and the opening hours are there 7 days a week. It really pisses me off.
Just imagine if you were on your arse and that, and you get down there and there's nothing there.
And that's what really pissed me off.
That would send you over the edge, wouldn't it?
Some homeless bloke walked down there, and
As I said, it's not right that anyone, veteran or not, should be homeless. And as a veteran, I think it's even more wrong that someone that served their country should be homeless if they don't want to be, as you said, Steve.
Yeah.
And yes, it's good that awareness is raised, but I think over-exaggerating figures ain't right. And to me, I'm always curious about where the money goes, because they said last year they raised 1.2 million.
a lot of money.
That's a lot of houses.
So I know two people that have done it this year, and they've raised a lot of money. Like Feggy's one, fair play to him, and Dave Toohey, two of my mates, raised a lot of money, so fair play to them. Fair play to anyone who's slept, especially recently. It's been fucking horrible. It's been freezing cold in the mornings. So I take me out off to anyone who's done that to raise money. Hopefully the employed people of the British Legion have also slept out in the cold.
Yeah, it's a good point, that, isn't it? But now, if you've done it, fair play to you for raising awareness. And if you are involved with the Royal British Legion Institute, where did you get your statistic from?
Yeah.
So moving on to this week's episode. So we're talking about Civvy Street.
Civvy Street.
What comes afterwards? What to expect?
Yeah, doom and gloom.
Well, is there any positives?
I was going to say you grow a beard, but you can do that now, can't you?
Yeah. Yeah. You don't get room inspected anymore unless you're married.
Yeah.
But we've got our usual segments of a Bravo Zulu shout out to some organisations which are job related and also Muckers Remembered. So let's go on to the icebreaker question. What was the first thing that you did as a civvy that made you feel out of the military?
I grew a beard.
Hey!
After about a month, it done my nutting. So
Yeah.
I had all ingrown hairs and it's horrible. So I shaved it all off, got rid of it.
You still have a wet shave regularly, do you?
I do.
Every day, is it? Or
Every other day, probably.
Yeah.
But to be fair, it's more because of my head. It's easier just to do the whole thing.
Yeah.
One go. If I don't shave my head, I look like a paedophile. Because after about 3 or 4 days, my hair, it looks like I've got hair. But it's after like a week or so, I've got this weird receding, dodgy hairline. So I look like a paedophile. So
you don't want that, do you?
Some people do.
Some people do. But you could be Mr. Upside Down Head and have a beard and a bald head.
Quite happy to shave it all off.
Yeah, fair one. Yeah, so interestingly, I'm the opposite to that. Could probably count on one hand the amount of times I've had a wet shave since leaving the military. I weren't a massive fan of it when I was in. I was that bloke in basic training that had to shave towards the end of the day as well, because I used to get what they call blue beard.
I was like in phase 1.
Yeah.
I mean, my mum and dad come to visit me one weekend, on a Saturday afternoon, and I had all these sores. My mum nearly started crying, so she took me up to the chemist, super drug, whatever, and got me some nice creams. Sorted me right out.
How did that go down when you got back?
When I turned up with my bag of oil of Ulay. What razor did you use when you was in the army? I was a Mach 3 kind of guy.
Yeah, I think something like that. I can't.
And it's only because my mum, at the market where she lived, the bloke used to, he must have had a mate who used to nick them or something, but she used to get me cheap razor blades. So I always had loads.
Because they're so expensive now.
That's what I was just going to say. That market's gone, so now I have to pay full whack.
You go Costco, don't you? You get about 50 of them.
They're more expensive in it. I nick them out of a supermarket.
Yeah.
No, you can't even nick them.
You can't, can you? Because they
put
all have tags on.
Yeah, I have to take scissors in and cut the tag
Yeah.
off. No, they're expensive. So, yeah, I might have to sharpen my blades.
Yeah.
We're going to have to talk some shit on here, don't we?
Fucking do we? I'm just trying to think. So when I come out, obviously I was injured, so I had my PAX payout, then my Armed Forces Compensation Scheme payout. The first thing I bought, once my eyesight come back and I could drive, I bought a BMW M3 convertible.
As you do.
As you do. And I bought a house, which I know is, I'm sounding like Ian Duncan Smith living on the other side, don't I now? Yeah, so I know we've spoken about before our squaddies, particularly posted to Germany, used to love the discount on cars you used to get over there.
Yeah.
And I was always a bit of a petrol head. So yeah, BMW M3 house, that was me.
I bought a Rover when I left, Rover 25 when I left, 500 quid.
Yeah, wacky weekender.
Yeah, it lasted me a while.
Yeah.
Until it blew up.
Yeah.
You got to service them.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Yeah.
Your service, it cost more than it cost, so I didn't bother.
Yeah, I don't know. They were the things I first bought. I was just splashing the cash like a fucking legend. That didn't turn out too well, did it, for me? Which we'll talk about.
Something else I enjoyed, one of the first things I did was having a pint at lunchtime.
Oh, yeah.
Quite enjoyed that. Yeah.
But you strike me as the sort of person that done that when you were serving anyway.
No, you couldn't do that anymore. My regiment, you couldn't do that.
Yeah.
It was very frowned. It was frowned upon. People did, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But just no one drunk. As soon as people finished work, that was it. You cracked a beer open.
Yeah.
But yeah, we didn't drink. That's what went on that photography course at RF Cosford. You could drink at lunchtime.
Oh, no, this famous photography.
It was a novelty. Like we had an hour off for lunch. We'd have 6-7 pints at lunchtime.
Yeah.
It was see, I mean, you physically could drink in an hour and then go back and take photos.
Yeah.
All blurry.
Yeah, we mentioned before about the possibility of doing an episode on a day in the life of, which I think would be good for civvies. Because you said to me, you don't know what other regiments or units, what their day look like.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about in Afghan, like we want the boring shit, the mundane, the day-to-day.
Tank regiment, when you was in a tank squadron, a Sabre squadron as it was known, it was depressing. It was shit, especially in Tidworth.
Sabre squadron sounds alley as fuck.
Yeah, so Challenger 2 squadron was known as a Sabre squadron. Normally, most mornings you do PT, which was normally, 4 or 5 mile run or battle PT, football, whatever it was. Every morning we'd done PT, 8 o'clock that was. And then you'd down the tank park at 10:30, which was fucking demoralising.
Yeah.
Because there was just nothing to do. You drive the tanks out of the hangar and look busy. So that involves sweeping up, taking a few panels off the tank to look like you're doing something, and just hiding.
Yeah.
Play hide and seek.
Or off-ground
Willy bum tank. Or you throw nuts and bolts at each other. So you'd be working, and all of a sudden you get a fucking nut or a bolt hit you in the head.
Yeah. Quality.
And then, or grease gun fights. We used to like grease gun fights. You chase each other with grease gun. You could tune them up so you get like a 10-foot range on them.
So yeah,
it was really boring.
Look forward to the future episode where we talk about some of the.
But I think, what do engineers do? Because you can't build toilets all the time.
Well,
you can't lay bridges all the time.
You'll have to wait.
Can't wait.
Right, some armed forces and veterans news. Have you got anything, Steve?
Horrible news, really.
News is never fun, is it? Never fun.
Well, we'll start off with the happy stuff, eh?
Go on.
So, Manchester United ladies team spent time at Winchester with the Army ladies team.
Oh, yeah.
Doing command tasks on the higher ropes, jumping, all like military.
A team building exercise.
They had a game at the end.
Okay.
And Man United won 8-0.
Excellent.
So, really, really good news for Man United ladies.
Yeah. Well, that's probably the best result Manchester United Football Club has had in a while, right?
Army ladies, you need to buck your ideas up a little bit. But fair play to you. You're playing a professional team, so well done.
Mm.
Now then, there's been a lad called Mason Ibbotson. And he
don't. Yeah, go on. I know this one.
Yeah. He assaulted Corporal Sean Roberts of the Royal Anglian Regiment. And unfortunately, Sean died of his injuries.
Yeah.
This lad, he got sentenced to 6 years. And he was well known, apparently, in the area for assaulting emergency services and being a wrong 'un. And he got 6 years.
Yeah, I know.
But them riots that happened a little while ago, people were getting them sort of sentences for shouting abuse at people and throwing wheelie bins in hotels. And they got 6 years. It's just disgraceful. Hopefully he gets a proper sentence when he's inside.
Yeah. Well, he's going to Young Offenders Institute as well.
That'll only be for a year. That's the thing, because he admitted to it as well. He got manslaughter. He admitted to manslaughter.
Yeah.
He'll only do 3 years.
Yeah.
Hopefully, after a year or so, he'll go to big boys prison. Or hopefully, hopefully he gets educated and comes out a better person.
So this is the other thing that winds me up. So Corporal Roberts was mentioned in dispatches. He was a Royal Anglian sniper. They were up at Otterburn on some course and that, and Ibbotson and his crew had identified them as not being locals and was goading them and kicking off. And it was seen on CCTV that Corporal Roberts was stood there with his hands by his side trying to discharge the situation. And this Ibbotson's just fucking clocked him. And he's a boxer as well. And once Robbo's on the ground, he's fucking there singing, like shouting, celebrating and that, like a mug. And I hope he gets what he deserves inside, because 6 years ain't enough.
They haven't taken his sentencing. Like he's a boxer, trained boxer. They haven't taken that into account. They can't have for 6 years. And why has he gone to a young offenders? He's over 18.
21, man's prison.
Oh, shameful.
Yeah.
Or is that just to clear the man's prisons out, to make some space?
No, it's always been like that. Young offenders up to 21. But yeah, I mean, a lot of prison officers are ex-forces, so yeah, fucking scumbag.
Yeah, another scumbag. Cole Clifford.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I couldn't find too many details about his army career, but he's the lad who shot his ex-girlfriend with a crossbow, stabbed her mum, killed her sister. I think he raped one of them as well.
Yep.
Just animal.
Yeah.
He was in, I won't say what regiment, because I don't think he even got to his regiment.
No.
He was in the British Army in 2022 for a bit. And his old platoon commander, for some reasons, made a statement.
Yeah, that's what I've got some details on that. Interestingly, the reason why this is down in Bushy this happened, which is reasonably local to us. But the point about his troop commander in basic training, because the little mug only done 2 years, it annoys me slightly because the media say, ex-soldier, and to me, he was never a soldier. This shows you the type of bloke this little rat was. So the comment from his platoon commander in basic training, he initially struggled to grasp basic military skills and required extra help at getting to grips with simple maths. Oh. So he sounds like a right cretin.
Yeah.
I don't know. What a
fucking animal.
But this was the thing. So he admitted murder, the mum and the two daughters, and recently he got found guilty of raping one of them.
Well, hopefully he stays in prison for the rest of his life.
Well, fuck it, and beyond.
Hopefully ain't too long.
Yeah, well, it's the old boiling water with a bag of sugar in it.
Yeah.
Over his face, that'd serve him.
That'll learn him.
Another one local to us, an RAF Chinook emergency landed near Old Warden Airfield, which is up near me in Biggleswade, so just up the road from us, and it was just sat in this field. I don't know what went wrong with it. I did see Royal Engineers were involved in.
It's always Royal Engineers involved.
I've got to get in there.
Did they design the Chinook?
No, I don't know. Maybe they did. They were up there involved with some track matting, which I think we've mentioned before. Kicking tin.
Yeah, they're good lads. They built a shower in a bog.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, it was just funny to see this RAF Chinook landed, because it was fucked basically. They had to have the RAF Reg involved, having perimeter security around this down Chinook and that, give them something to do. But yeah, that was all the news. Go on, sorry.
As we're on the subject of helicopters, I mentioned the other week about the Army Air Corps received 3 Apaches. Well, that puts the total of Apaches in the British Army now up to 50.
Okay.
Which I think's quite a respectable number.
I wasn't expecting that.
Well, I thought I'll have a look, see other nations. The Americans have got 819 of them. And then I looked at Russia. Obviously, they haven't got Apaches, but they've got 577 attack helicopters.
Yeah.
That was before the war in Ukraine, so they might have a few less, but it just puts our numbers into perspective. But still, I think 50 Apaches is quite impressive. I don't know if we've got 50 pilots, but we've got 50 Apaches.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's move on to the listener sit rep. So, Steve, you got anything been sent in from any of our listeners?
We get quite a bit of input, but I don't want to just throw it all out there. I like to wait for the right occasion.
Yeah.
So, Chrissy B's, first of all, he said he had a JLS tattoo as well.
Okay.
You've got a JLS tattoo,
yeah, I have. Yeah, well, we mentioned that. That was last week's episode, wasn't it?
His son was born and he had complications, so he spent a lot of time in hospital, and all the doctors were Muslims.
Yeah.
And they picked him up for having this JLS tattoo on his arm, so he got it covered up. Which I don't know who they are to pull anyone up.
Yeah.
It's not offensive, but it is what it is.
Well, it's like I said last week when I've been on holidays, people have mentioned it. And in the south of Spain, these two blokes were saying, the kefir, the infidel. I don't know if I clarified this last week, but when I was in Egypt, the guy, he felt sorry for me because it's the non-believer, as in he read it as in I don't believe in anything, and he came over and he's like, oh, like that tattoo, like what? Why don't you believe in anything? I think it's been sort of used by bad Muslims as sort of a derogatory term, whereas in fact it's actually like, oh, this person doesn't believe in anything.
I know when you watch certain films, or whatever, and it's, you know, for instance, there's one about the Knights, the Crusades, and all that sort of stuff. They actually call the Muslims infidels.
Yeah.
Because it's just, you know, like you say, it's this non-believer. It's
Yeah.
not anything more than that. I don't know who it was, but someone sent me another slang word.
Go on.
Chip shop. You heard that? Chip shop? Oh, it looks like proper chip shop. And it means sort of like...
saying that, I
like
remember
crap
Chippy.
Or unprofessional. Oh, that's proper chip shop, that is.
Yeah.
Like when someone buys like a really cheap webbing set or something.
Yeah.
Proper chip shop.
So we would say like, oh, you chippy fucker, or that looks chippy. Chip shop.
Yeah.
Do you know where it comes from? Or
I don't even know who sent it in.
Fuck it.
But
I don't even know who sent it in.
But we used to get it a lot anyway in my regiment.
How did you, what was it, message or email?
Just a message.
Oh, you just don't know who it was.
Didn't know the number.
Oh. Well, if you did send that in, can you give us a... Well, we want to know why, what the story is behind that.
Starting with Smithy.
Here he is. We need a theme tune for him.
He said, what's people's views or opinions on wearing the non-Article 5 ISAF medal?
Oh, yeah.
He said some people get their bollocks in a twist about it. He personally doesn't care.
The non-Article 5 ISAF medal was, for me, I got issued it as part of my deployment to Afghanistan. Because it's non-article, I wouldn't be, or the blokes that got issued it wouldn't be allowed to wear it on their twos for Remembrance Sunday or whatever. But obviously when you get out, those rules don't apply.
But I think official visits and meetings, you still can't wear it, even as a civilian.
I mean, I don't know, mine got lost. I haven't got mine. Yeah, I see people wearing it on Remembrance Sunday. I don't really give a shit.
No.
Right? It doesn't bother me.
I think it's earned more than a Jubilee medal or a coronation medal. So
I guess so.
Yeah. And also, in 2011, the MOD announced that the Malaysia Service Medal could be worn by British veterans.
Okay.
So, Borneo conflict,
Yeah.
they all got issued a General Service Medal.
Yeah.
Years later, the Malaysian government gave everyone who was involved another medal. They wasn't allowed to wear it officially, but the MOD allowed them. So they wear two medals for the same campaign, which is what we're saying. You know, so maybe years later, the government might make a decision.
The non-Article 5 medal, it was like something out of a bloody Christmas cracker, wasn't it?
It felt plastic. Didn't it?
Yeah. It was proper lightweight.
Yeah.
Obviously, your operational tour medal had your service number and name engraved on the lip or whatever you want to call it, the edge. But that was just a chocolate coin, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What does Stuttering Smithy? What are his thoughts on it?
He says he doesn't care, so I don't really know why he's sent the question in. Really.
Yeah. Does anyone care? Let us know your thoughts.
Took him about 2 hours to tell me. Now, to be fair, his stutter's really good. I think. Well, he hasn't got a stutter, so I think we need to try. I stutter more than him.
Yeah, so do I. Yeah.
But he also said another thing he sent in. He loves getting involved.
He does.
He said the Polish Prime Minister has stated that he wants all males to undergo military training. How would we feel about doing this?
I've already done it, Smithy.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know if he knows, but I was in the army with him.
Yeah.
So I pissed all over him. But again, that's that.
It's that national service thing.
I think it's good. I know the last government said about having a national service, but it wasn't for your grunts. It was more the technical trades and things like that. And I don't think that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
If it's managed properly. And also, I feel like you should have two. You should have a conscript army and a professional army.
Yeah.
And they should be clearly identified as different.
So to an element, I think if you get to 18, because you have to go to mainstream education till you're 18. Yeah. If you're not going to university or a trade or college or you haven't got a job lined up, then you should go into a form of national service. But you don't deploy. It's like a...
When I was based in Germany, I'm pretty sure their system was you joined a service, whether it's the police, fire brigade, ambulance, military. You know, you give back.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like a sort of volunteer, like they'd do like
because I think the
street cleaning and stuff like that.
The focus now is for kids to leave school, education, university, education. You know, and that's all it is. Getting 40 grand worth of debt for education, and then you can't get a job after it.
Yeah,
you know, but that is just how society is at the minute. And I don't know. I don't really care. I'm well past school age, so that's not my problem no more.
I mean, to me, my son, and I know we mentioned that he's just gone into the Air Cadets because he wants to be a pilot. So I said to him, like, you better get saving, mate. You need to do all the training. It's very rare that you get some sort of scholarship where you get trained from zero to hero and then get a job on Virgin or whatever. But I said to him, like, why don't you join the RAF? And he's got this thing because he grew up being aware of what happened to me, his dad, and he doesn't like that idea of going into the armed forces. And I said to him, like, look, mate, like, you don't have to be on the front line. Like, you could fly tankers or cargo planes or whatever. And he loves football as well. And that's like a dream job, isn't it? As much as it begrudges me to say it about the RAF. But if that's what you want to do, and I'm glad he's got that focus, because if he got to the end of his GCSEs and it was like, oh, I don't know what I want to do, Dad, I'd be, well, you need to sort it out, mate, because that ain't acceptable.
You end up in a referee otherwise, wouldn't he?
Fucking hell, yeah.
God forbid. Something from me now.
What?
The first tank was invented by a bloke called Gunther Bursting in 1911.
Fuck off.
Yeah, an Austrian geezer who joined the Nazi party. So it wasn't a Royal Engineer, Little Mick.
Little Mick. Yeah, it's funny you say Little Mick. I've had a message off him. Obviously, what did you call him last week? Albanian car wash or something. So he's sent us this voice note in.
Oh, and get me on the fucking podcast. Fucking Steve, Jesus Christ. An Albanian car wash. What the fuck? He needs some grief, mate, that lad.
What do you reckon to that, Steve?
I don't know what he's on about. Where's he from?
Yorkshire.
Oh.
Leeds.
Can't understand it.
Nah.
I've heard that. Do you know what the Yorkshire war cry is?
Go on.
Ah, fucking much.
That was a listener sit rep of what's been going on, any messages we've been sent in. But here's your question for today. You got it, Steve?
What's that, sorry? I was doing a bit of highlighting.
Oh, was you? Today's listener sit rep question is, what's been the biggest challenge or surprise after leaving the military? And send that in. The usual contact details, and we will read it out later on or at a later date. All right, if you've made it this far and still want to get in touch, whether it's to ask a question, share a story, or just tell us we've got no idea what we're on about, here's how.
Yeah, just search The Muster Point on Facebook, TikTok, X or YouTube. We're the ones not trying to sell you tactical socks or survival courses that promise to unlock your warrior mindset.
If email's more your thing, you can reach us at steve@themusterpoint.org.uk or stu@themusterpoint.org.uk. If you want a straightforward, serious answer, email me. If you want a response that might include a meme, a terrible joke, or an unexpected philosophical debate, email Steve.
Yeah, my inbox is where professionalism and chaos have a weekly wrestling match. Sometimes I'll hit you with a useful reply. Sometimes you'll get a deep question about whether a Jaffa cake is a biscuit or a cake.
For those of you that like the thrill of an immediate response, we're on WhatsApp too. Check out our socials or the show notes for the number. Drop us a message, send a voice note, or if you're feeling brave, ask Steve for some life advice.
Yeah, send in your problems, and I'll fix them with the wisdom of a man who once thought energy drinks counted as a balanced diet.
So there you go. Facebook, TikTok, X, YouTube, email, WhatsApp. No excuses for radio silence. And while you're at it, do us a favour. Share this episode. You never know, it might just end up on a PowerPoint slide in a regimental briefing somewhere. So that was how to get in contact with us. Now we're going to go into the main point of the show, frontline focus. Marching into Civvy Street, the shock of transition, finding purpose after service, and how it went. So, Steve, talk us through your transition. That sounds fucking dodgy, doesn't it?
I had my first off. I split the penis. And
Have you still got sensation down there?
I've still got it in the jar. Yeah, so I signed off halfway through my tour in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Got back, got stuck in maintenance troop, it's called. You know, just discarded, if you like. Very bitter. But anyway, I've done my resettlement. I actually enjoyed being in maintenance troop because actually we got on really well. The bloke in charge really looked after us, and he was quite laid back. You know, all my courses I have to do and that, he was good as gold. Just, you know, take what time off you need.
You mentioned their resettlement. So what?
Yeah. So I did the 3-day career transition workshop, I think it was, writing CVs and all that. Yeah, I learned a thing or two.
It was mainly like a CV writing course. Yeah. Depending on how long you'd served, meant how long or how much transition workshops you were entitled to. And the Buckshee standard one was like a 3-day.
Everyone got that.
Yeah, like CV writing, bollocks. Most blokes just used it like as 3 days off to chin it off. And I even know blokes that had served longer and were entitled to a longer transition, didn't take it seriously.
I think everyone learnt something. I didn't have to write a CV before then, to be fair. I'd never had to. I joined when I was too young to apply. It's the first job I ever really applied for. So I did learn a thing or two. It was worth doing. But to be fair, this day and age, you probably learn better skills from YouTube or social media, But anyway, so I did that. And then I went on to my actual proper resettlement course, which was like a plant operator course. It was learning to drive excavators, dumpers, fork trucks, all that sort of stuff.
And you'd requested that?
Yeah. So that was done on the Isle of Sheppey, actually. I stayed in Kent, stayed in a bed and breakfast in Kent. The majority of it was paid for by the military, but I still had to pay a big chunk. I think it was a month long, and it was a decent course.
So what sort of diggers did you get to drive?
360 excavators, above and below 10 ton. Dumper trucks, all different dumper trucks, big ones, little ones, ones that swivel. Your normal counterbalance fork truck, and then the telescopic handler, up to 15 ton, something like that. That was good fun to drive. So I thought I'd done well, got me tickets and that, and it weren't until I phoned an agency up when I was about to leave the army and tried to get some work. I went, no one's going to recognise your qualification.
Can you remember what the qualification was?
National Plant Operator, something, MPRS.
Yeah.
It looked like a proper accredited thing, but just no one really wanted it. Yeah. So I had to go and do
CPCS.
CPCS. That was the plant operators.
So that the CPCS, is the. So so in my time afterwards as a surveyor, you'd have to have a CSCS to go on site. Everyone does, and obviously there's different levels. There's different levels from like visitor up to management. But your CPCS was the equivalent. It wasn't your licenses of how to drive; it was your health and safety, but from a plant operator.
No. I had to do a written test, which was quite hard, and a practical test driving.
Okay.
So the digger, it was a written test. That was quite hard, to be quite honest with you. Yeah. And then the actual the practical stuff was just, I think I dug a trench with a man out at the end. Yeah. And that was it. I changed the bucket, very, very basic, really. I drove diggers when I was 13 years old. When I was at school, I used to go and work for my brother who had a groundworks firm. Yeah. So I drove diggers for years. So that wasn't too hard. It was the health and safety stuff, that sort of stuff. And
but what I'm saying is your CPCS is like to prove your competency. Yeah. It's not going to college and learning how to pull a trench or whatever.
Sorry, it's just a test. That's all it is. A couple of hour test, that is. But you can't get work unless That is it. You got to have that and a CSS card. So anyway,
so you had to pay for that off your own back afterwards.
And it's quite a lot of money, to be fair. I think it's about 500 or 600 quid just to do the test. I went there and done the test, and he went, he failed straight away. I went, why? He went, because you reversed. I went, yeah. This is in a 360 excavator. He went, you went backwards. I went, okay, what's wrong with that? He went, you're in a 360 excavator. You turn the machine round and drive forwards. And I was like, all right, fair enough. I said, but I've just done a month at a college. I never said nothing about that.
Fucking hell.
Yeah. He went, right, come down and do another day. Like I said, I had to pay for a day's training. That was about 300 or 400 quid. Yeah. And just tidied up all the things that I wasn't, I was scruffy, if you like. So I'd done that anyway. Come back and done another test, another 500 or 600 quid. So it cost me over $1,000, if you like, to correct. And that's just the excavator. I didn't bother doing the double. But it turns out I didn't need any of that because, well, no one's ever asked me to see it. And for about a year after I left the army, I worked on building sites, doing groundworks, mainly plant operating. No one ever asked to see any tickets, so it was a bit of a waste of time, really.
I mean, it sounds like you worked for some dodgy firms there, because the construction stuff that I've done, so HS2, Hinkley Point C,
I didn't work
A14, it was like you'd have to have all your bells and whistles and that. Yeah. When you had to retake the CPCS course, was you still technically in?
Yes.
Did you go back to the careers transition and say, fucking what's this all about?
I fed it all back to them, and they went, yeah, all right, we'll take that on board. And that was it. And I didn't want no one else to go through that same mistake. But that was that. Yeah. So, and then, like I said, no one's ever asked to. And I worked on big sites, but to be fair, the sites I worked on were probably 50 blokes on. Yeah. Housing estates at sort of 10 houses. So the health and safety wasn't that bothered.
And this was back in,
2010.
2010.
Yeah, 2010. And early 2011.
So once you'd done the courses, the extra courses that you needed, did you walk straight into a job? Did you have a job lined up?
Yeah, on a building site, a lot of it's word of mouth. It's who you know.
Yeah.
Luckily, loads of my mates were builders, so I got put on to the right people and managed to get a job straight away.
Yeah.
The money was pretty crap to be. I thought it was good compared to what I was earning when I was in the army, but I weren't paying bills and I was still getting paid by the army. Once that stopped, after a month or two, I realised I fucking ain't earning much money here.
Yeah.
But,
you make an interesting point. So, like, you joined up at 16 out of short trousers or whatever they say, like, straight into the military world. And then you come out the other side and you've never had that experience of, like, paying bills like gas, utilities, TV licence, fucking council tax.
I was homeless.
And you get these buckshy, not fit for purpose courses, but you don't get any, this is like sort of how to live.
I said before, I only signed off because I wanted to go back on tour.
Yeah.
And it was well known, if you sign off, you go in front of the CMO, it was.
CMO, yeah.
Yeah, and they will offer you courses, promotion. I didn't want promotion or posting. I wanted to get sent straight back out to Afghanistan with another one of my squadrons. Badger Squadron was going out and I wanted to be with them because they was my mates.
Yeah.
Anyway, there was no option for me to sign back on. They said, no, the army's changed the policy. No one's signing back on. In fact, people are going to get made redundant soon.
Yeah.
And that was it. And I said, I don't want to get out. I've made a mistake here. And there was no option to sign back on. So my mum and dad, they had my brother's kids living with them. So I didn't have a bed no more.
Yeah.
I think my niece was living in my room. So I was homeless. I had to go have an interview with the CO. And I told him all this and he didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
So he's like, you signed off. It was your decision. You've got to take responsibility for your actions.
Yeah.
All right. So, it's what it is. So I managed to get a little studio flat. And I think at the time it was costing me something like 600 quid a month.
Yeah.
For a room with a bathroom in it, which didn't sound too much. But when I was probably only earning 350, 400 quid a week before tax, which I thought was great when I first earned it. Oh, that's good money, but actually it's sod all. So in the end, I ended up working 7 days a week, and I managed to get another job on the side, unblocking drains and sticking cameras up drains, doing surveys and stuff like that. Yeah. And the money was brilliant, to be fair. I think it was like 50 quid for 30 minutes work, and I'd do that every chance I get. I'll be out doing that sort of stuff. So I was earning a lot of money, but I was still carrying on like I was in the army. I was still drinking heavily, going out partying all the time.
And how old were you at this point?
24. So I got into a bit of a habit of just going out drinking all the time. Got involved in following football. So I was home and away watching football all the time, and it cost money. I was earning loads of money, but I was spending loads of money. That's the trouble. I was spending more money than I was earning.
Yeah.
I did have a good time, but it was the times where, fucking I've missed a bill. Shit. That's when it's like it hits home. You think, I wish I. Because
that's the thing. Obviously, you said there it was £600 a month or whatever for this flat. But to me, it sounds simple, doesn't it? But I think there are people that, like, especially the younger lads, so many more bills on top of that. That isn't just your flat rate.
And that was 15 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's
God knows what it is now. You got your car insurance, your tax.
Yeah.
You get a puncher. That's another 100 quid, 50 quid. What it is. It all adds up. And
yeah, like insurances, like not just car insurance, but like housing insurance, contents, buildings, or phone, just like little stuff like that.
All
where you think,
stuff. You sort of don't realise it. Yeah, I don't know. It's a sad one, but I feel like the military shouldn't allow you to leave until you've got a proper job.
Yeah,
not just like I was self-employed. I don't think I was registered as self-employed because I didn't know what that was. I just thought people pay your tax, but they don't. You have to pay your own tax if you're self-employed. I didn't know that.
That's your responsibility.
I didn't know that. No one told me that.
Because it's mad, isn't it? Because you have to give a year's notice to sign. Well, so you sign off, and a year later, obviously you're out. Yeah. You're a civvy. From my situation was different, but the blokes I know that signed off. So in that year, it weren't until like maybe the last 4 months maximum, depending on how long you'd done, they'd go into like doing that. They'd be given leave, as it were, to do like your transitioning. And to me, it's like, as soon as you're committed to signing off, there should be a duty. There should be more courses, and even just simple courses like managing finances and all this. Yeah. There should be, as you said, that thing where the army, by the point where you leave a year later, you should have a house and a job. The army the armed forces should have that commitment.
Yeah, I feel, definitely. You shouldn't be allowed to leave homeless.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't just be there's nothing wrong with a bed sit, but it should be a secure home.
Yeah.
And some sort of a reputable, is that even a word?
Reputable.
That word.
Yeah.
Job, not just like, nothing wrong with working in McDonald's, but, not just getting out to a job.
I'd say McDonald's is, at least you could, it's a job for life, isn't it?
When I say that, I mean like a 0-hour contract type thing, like a proper job where all your taxes paid, pension contributions, all that sort of stuff.
Because I do remember, so we had, in the Royal Engineers, you'd have a lot of infantry guys that were like, shit, they've realised that I'm not getting sort of transitionable skills for Civvy Street, and they'd re-cap badge to the Royal Engineers to get trades and that.
Yeah, because a lot of people go for like the HGV route or whatever, Category C.
Yeah.
That's a good route to go down, and it's quite easy to get in a lot of regiments.
Yeah.
For some reason, I never bothered putting my name down for it, but you could always get it if you wanted to do it.
Yeah.
It's the motorbike licence everyone wanted.
Yeah.
You never volunteered for it, though, because you got shit jobs.
I left sort of slightly differently.
Yeah.
Like, I give my year's notice to sign off before we deployed on Op Herrick 11. And there was a few people signing off at the time that had been, like, they'd deployed to Iraq multiple times, deployed to Afghanistan multiple times, and they were like, look, I don't want to deploy again. So the badge said to me, the sergeant major said, don't you want to go Afghan sort of thing? And I was like, no, boss, I'm 110% committed to going to deploying to Afghanistan. What was it, 3 months into the deployment, 3 or 4 months, I got injured, got blown up. And we'll talk about this in more detail because I think it's a big story. But basically, I stood in front of a med board. They told me to soldier on. So I left the military after my year's notice was up. Normally, if you go. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, like I said earlier on, that my PAX paid out within a month. And then
PAX is your own personal civilian company, isn't it?
Yeah. So PAX insurance is if you get injured or whatever, then it pays out. And then alongside PAX, I got Armed Forces Compensation Scheme payout. And then when I left, my Armed Forces Compensation Scheme guaranteed income payment, which is what it's called now. It's a fucking mouthful. But in essence, the war pension kicked in. And like I said earlier, I bought that BMW M3. I was, up until June 2010, I was pretty much like recovering at my mum and dad's up in Staffordshire. But I used some of the money to buy a house down in Stevenage. I thought to myself, well, I'll buy a house. At least I know I've got a roof over my head. I actually bought it for cash. I mean, not as in like a briefcase full of cash, but it was a crazy feeling. So there was no mortgage in that. I went into my bank and asked the young girl who was behind the counter at the time if she could transfer X £100,000 into this account, and she looked at me in shock. So for me, there was that element of comfort. Obviously, I had the other issues that hadn't been resolved, obviously being blown up and the other shit that went down in Afghanistan, that hadn't been dealt with. So I had a roof over my head, I had a fucking convertible BMW M3, and I had my guaranteed income payment. And I thought, fuck me, I'm living the dream here. And I don't think I worked until probably the January 2011. I was just pissing it up, partying all the time, just living what I thought was the motherfucking dream. But it got to a point where I was like, oh, fuck, this can't go on. I need some sort of structure in that. My trade in the Royal Engineers was engineering surveyor. So on my Class 1 survey course, I got the qualification you get is a HND in engineering survey, which is what a undergraduate qualification level 5. Unfortunately, around that time, 2010, was it was the fallout from the financial crash. Yeah. There wasn't a lot of engineering sort of surveying jobs going. And I ended up getting a job as a plumber's mate with my mate who run a plumbing company. Basically went into London fitting boilers, stripping out, doing radiators and all that. So I was quite lucky. That's the thing. I was quite lucky because I had that guaranteed income payment and I still had fucking shitloads of money left over from the payout. There wasn't that pressure on me. And without a doubt, I'm grateful. As crazy as it sounds, it's like I am grateful for that.
I know a lot of people who've got a similar sort of story, got injured, nice big payouts, all got nice cars. That was like the first thing I remember, like Evo 10, Subarus, like everyone's driving around camp with all these flash cars.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you deserve a treat if you've been injured like that. Yeah. But with a PAX thing, I know when I don't know if it's around Afghanistan, someone got smacked in the face by a door. It was like a snatched Land Rover door, hit him in the eye, cut their eyebrow. Yeah. And the medic come over and went, well, I could probably get you about 10 stitches. This cut was about 15 millimetres long. Yeah. He put as many stitches as he could physically get in it because apparently you got paid per stitch. say 1,500 quid per
Yeah,
stitch.
yeah, I think that, yeah.
So the medic, no names mentioned, but yeah, he put as many stitches as he could physically get in his cut. So the lad got as much, made a right mess of his eye, but he got about 10 grand out of it, so he's laughing.
Yeah, because that was the other thing. I think it was 2012. The Conservative brought into law the military covenant, and as part of that, they invented or created Armed Forces Personal Independence Payment. So obviously, as a civvy, depending on your level of disability you may be entitled to personal independence payment. But as a injured soldier, so again, it depends. Like if you got a few stitches, you wouldn't be entitled to it. But my level of injury was high enough that I was entitled to Armed Forces PIP, which is your top level of PIP for the rest of your life. You don't get assessed on it. You don't get anything. And like, don't get me wrong. Like, I thought to myself, if I'm entitled to it, then I'll take it. Do you know what I mean? But there was that conflict, like, oh, like, do I really need it? And it's like, fuck it, like, I do. And with that, having the full PIP, so you can use part of that payment to go towards a mobility car, which is incredible. Like, all you have to do is pay a certain amount up front, depending on the spec of the car. And you don't have to pay insurance, tyres, servicing, anything like that. And you can apply for a new car every 3 years. So I was very lucky. It's fucking crazy. People say, obviously, I lost an eye, and there was other trauma around that. But I honestly believe if I hadn't have got injured and blown up, especially what with the time being around the financial crash, I reckon I'd have signed back on because of that fear.
Yeah.
And like coming out with that cushion, as it were.
I know a few mates that signed back on. Oh, I don't know if I would have done or not. I think I'd like the idea of it, but I think pride, if you like.
Yeah, I get that.
Too embarrassed to sign back on. So it was never really an option for me. And to be fair, I was doing all right. I was working hard. I was earning good money. Yeah, I never struggled with work, to be fair. I always had work.
Yeah.
And then while I was in the army, I'd done like I say Mickey Mouse, but I'd done an engineering apprenticeship while I was in there. I didn't realise I was doing it, to be honest. It was just part and parcel. It was like a secondary thing for my job. First of all, I was a tank crewman, but then the tank crews do the maintenance. So I left the army with MVQ level 3 in engineering. I never really thought nothing of it. And it was only my brother-in-law, he's ex-RAF, old dog. He said to me one day, he said, look, you've got these qualifications here. Why are you mucking about in trenches on building sites, soaking wet and, working 7 days a week? Why don't you get a job on a railway? I was like, well, doing what? It's like maintenance on the trains, because that's the sort of thing he'd done. So he helped me, pointed me in the right direction of filling out forms, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Because I couldn't write because I was a tanky. So I got my crayons out, but he went, no, get a pen. But anyway, so we filled it. I got a job on a railway, and it was like, it was regular work. Whereas before I was self-employed. If the weather was crap, I didn't work. So I had a regular job on a railway. And I learned a lot of new skills on a railway as well. Yeah. And it set me up really from what I do now.
Yeah. So I got this job with my mate, plumbing, gas heating, and that, and to the point where I actually got my own van, and I was doing more of the plumbing work. Obviously, you had to be gas safe and that. But I ended up responding to a advert or something I'd seen on Facebook about a TV show. So I ended up going and being on a program
Naked in an attraction.
Nah, not at all. On Channel 5, Operation Homefront. And I would say nobody watched it, but it was basically a concept of DIY SOS, but using veterans, which was good. And I think it was at that time, so that would have been 2013, so the economy had started picking up, and I managed to get a job starting off with a local surveying company, going out and doing topographic surveys, building surveys and that. For me, as I've said, being a raw engineer, got a HND in engineering survey, which is a civilian qualification and a very good one. But obviously, when I was on tour and that, or even in the UK, I've never done any surveying. I think the closest I got to surveying was bloody back of a cigarette packet and a engineer's level, and then suddenly being an engineering surveyor for a civvy company, it was like, I think they regretted employing me for that. There was an element of that.
Why did you keep looking through the telescope with your blind eye?
Yeah, not quite. But as in, I wasn't as quick. Yeah. I wasn't as
money's not
refined than that. But
and money's not a thing in the military. Yeah. You take your time, you do it properly.
Yeah. Strip it out 10 times, redo it. So, yeah, whatever.
But Civvy Street, it costs money.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the thing that sort of made it a bit easier for them to swallow is they saw that Like I was there on time, I was committed, I was like a sponge
shiny
ready
boots.
to learn. I had shiny boots and fucking creased jeans and that. But do you know what I mean? That ethos, I think that's what sort of made it a bit easier for them to stomach. And to be fair, I learned so much off them working in that civilian environment, and it propelled me because I've always been, maybe it's the addict in me, I've never been happy staying in a job for too long. I think still to this day, the longest job I've had is the 5.5 years I've done in the army. And so then I worked for, where did I go? I think I worked for a civil engineering company called Brahini's, and then, which are quite big round here, and then Kia Construction, which is a multinational construction company. And I worked my way up to the dizzy heights of survey manager, running sort of 10, 15 surveyors and engineers on projects like Hinkley Point C down in the West Country, and then moved on to an earthworks company called Blackwell's, working on HS2, the A14, all these big jobs, just basically managing a team of surveyors. I was a bit outspoken in some of these civvy jobs, but I think some people like that, especially in construction. I wouldn't fucking just say yes sir, no sir, and all that.
Yeah.
And I was quite good at what I'd done, particularly with the management, and I had that ability to like just work under pressure and mobilise people where they needed to be, and then kick back as a manager in my chair going, yeah, and take all the glory.
I think one of the, because I used to subcontract work off people, and there was a company, it was an Indian company, really quite a big Indian firm. They used to do a lot of property developing, and they used to love me. Me and my mate Tony, they loved us because we were just quite matter of fact. Whereas a lot of the Indians, they were so respectful for management and stuff like that. That the senior managers really bullied them. But because we had a laugh and a joke, and we just spoke to them like we was friends with them, they actually liked that. Whereas the minions, if you like, they treated them like dirt.
But that's the thing. I remember on some of those big construction jobs, like you get the cleaners and that come around cleaning the offices and the toilets and that, and they're usually either Eastern European or sort of Indian.
Yeah.
And I used to speak like that thing of like, ask them how they're doing, how their day is, like what they're up to and all that. Whereas a lot of people would be like, oh, fucking...
Beneath me.
Yeah. I just don't see, like, everyone's equal. Like
in hospital, for instance, when the COVID thing, you know, for me, the cleaner is just as important as a surgeon.
Damn right.
Because without a clean surgery, you can't operate. You know, the theatre's got to be spotless. The person who's ordering the rubber gloves, they're just as important as a surgeon.
Everyone plays their part, don't they?
Yeah, they might be on more money. They might have gone to school for a bit longer, but it don't mean they're any more important.
I've come across cleaners working on some of the construction jobs I've been involved in that they're like qualified civil engineers from like Eastern Europe or India, wherever, but they've come to the UK, they need to work, and it's like they're human. You can get like, you can have a bit of banter, you can, you know what I mean, interact with them, whereas a lot of people that I'm above you, I'm not talking to you. And that's what I found, particularly saw it so much in the construction. Like these graduates would come out with their civil engineering degree, and you'd be expected to work from the bottom up as like a junior engineer. But all they wanted to do, all they were fixated on, was being the project manager. Yeah. And it caused a lot of problems, to the point where myself and my colleague at the time at Kia, like we developed a surveying 2-day training course with them, because these graduates were going into like big jobs, and either that attitude of, I'll trust what the computer's saying and just go with it, or if the computer is not working, then I can't do the job. Whereas obviously being old school and having that military thing was like, just because the kit's not working is not an excuse.
Yeah.
And it just trying to drill that into these youngsters. I just found everyone wanted to be the project manager, and they didn't really want to.
Well, I think a lot of the feedback we're getting from our question is like the civvies, the stepping on anyone to get to the top. You know? And that's sort of what you're saying, I think, isn't it? You know, they just want to be at the top. They don't care who they've got to cross to get there.
Yeah, it's fucking sad. But yeah, for me, as I said, I was lucky that I did fall on my feet, and I had that sort of financial backing, sort of support behind me. But
a lot of people don't.
A lot of people don't.
Majority of people don't at the end of the day.
But it's that like fitting into that civilian workplace, particularly working in offices. Like you just had to me, the hardest thing was watching what I said, like being mindful of that, because people would take offence or they wouldn't understand. And I'm not talking about having a go at someone. I'm talking about just random outbursts that us squaddies loved and that.
Phrases that are normal in the army, but completely unacceptable in Civvy Street.
And you don't, as you said, you don't mean anything by it,
No.
do you?
Some of the things we had nicknames for in the army were completely unacceptable.
Yeah.
I won't even repeat it on here, what we used to call a wire brush. But any tanky will understand.
We've mentioned it before about how people are institutionalised by the army and how, like, through no fault of their own, it's just who they are. And I think these big companies, they sign up to the military covenant and all this, and they want to recruit veterans, but they have no real understanding of what it truly means to support a veteran.
Yeah. I think, especially, you get someone he's done 22 years, he's a warrant officer class 1 corps, but actually he might be really damaged.
Yeah.
I'm not saying all over that, but just because he has got that badge doesn't mean he's a great person. Sorry, he's a great person, but there's baggage there. Doing 22 years, potentially see him 10 operational tours plus more. There's great potential there for. He might not be politically correct. Might not be as woke as you want to be.
But it's funny you mentioned about the rank thing. So what pissed me off, and it still does because I still see it, is job adverts for, and it will say something like, this job will be suited to a W01 rank and that. And it's like this is Civvy Street. Like, there's no rank at the bar, mate. And so I left as a Lance Jack, Section 2 IC. When I was on Hinkley Point, I could set up all the processes and policies for the survey department and how we'd work. I then recruited the team. I think I had I probably spent, well, not personally, but I was responsible for over £1 million worth of survey kit. And I was a Lance Jack.
Yeah.
To me, that pisses me off. Yeah. It's like, it doesn't matter. If you're good enough, you're good enough.
And I know, REME, the Royal Engineers, sometimes it's quite hard to get up them senior ranks. It's quite easy to get to a sergeant, but in certain trades, you stay there.
Yeah.
No fault of your own, because you're the trade you're in.
Yeah.
And so.
Well, we had within the Royal Engineers, you've got Clerk of Works, and a Clerk of Works is like your professionally qualified engineer. So you could either be like a civil engineer or a mechanical engineer or structural. And these guys work in design cells, designing stuff.
Is that a commissioned or non-commissioned?
No, so it's non-commissioned, but so it's like a 3-year course.
Yeah.
You have to be, I think the lowest you can be is a Lance Jack.
Is that like an artificer course?
Yeah, so I think it's similar.
Yeah.
So, for example, I could have joined as, or applied for the course, and it's not easy, it's quite intense. Joined as a Lance Jack, and then as soon as you go on to the course, you get promoted to sergeant, and then on finishing the course, you leave as a staff sergeant. So yeah, like Mick Knowles would relate to this. So there's like seniors that have Little Mick have worked their way up to say staff sergeant or WO2, and then you'd have these, in essence, Lance Jacks that have done a 3-year course and come out as a staff sergeant.
They must be a bit bitter.
Yeah, Mick's definitely bitter about shit like that.
Yeah, he's only little, only.
So we said we'd talk about like identity and adapting. Like, how did you find, apart, like, forget about finding a job and the qualifications, like what stands out for you about having that identity or relating to civvies? Anything?
Well, because I worked self-employed doing groundworks. I only worked in small groups, and a lot of them were Hungarians and things like that. Me and my mate Tony, both English.
No Irish.
His mum was Irish. Yeah. Of course he is. He's a ground worker.
Yeah.
Very skilled with a shovel.
Yeah.
But
also in that groundwork sort of environment, it is a bit squadified, isn't it? Like, as in
proper rough.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, we'd work with steel fixers, scaffolders, again, like rough. Like,
yeah.
And that side of things weren't that different to me, really. It weren't until I got on the railway that it was quite clicky, and that's when I noticed civvies are arseholes.
Yeah.
Like, they would step on anyone to get up the ladder.
Yeah.
And
they'd
dropping each other in the shit so they can get overtime.
And they'd hold grudges.
Yeah.
The amount of times I thought to myself, like, I wish I was back in where you could, like, someone fucked up or you got an issue with someone, step outside the bar, whoever wins, done. And it's forgotten about, isn't it? You move on.
Yeah.
Whereas with civvies, I don't know, they just hold, to me, it pissed me off that I certainly experienced where they'd hold on to grudges and that.
Yeah.
It's like, just fucking
almost
get
it's
over
bullying.
it.
Yeah, bullying. And certain managers would bully certain people because they can't stand up for themselves.
Yeah,
Things like that. Yeah, I didn't like that anyway. I didn't like that side of Civvy Street. So I did enjoy it. And once I got on the railway, I'd done shift work. So on my days off, I carried on going back to the building site because I like the money.
Yeah.
Also, I enjoyed it. It was a laugh. It was a bit of an escape, if you like.
So when I was down at Hinkley Point C and I'm recruiting this team, so a mate of mine that I went through basic training with him and we done our survey course together, Jacko. So he'd actually got out and then got back in, and he ended up being forced to leave, should we say. I don't want to throw him under the bus. Not that anyone's going to know who Jacko is. Fucking how many Jackos are in the British Forces? Anyway, so he's phoned me up and I'm managing down at Hinkley Point C. He's gone, oh shit, Stu, I think I'm for the boot here. I said, no problem, mate. I'll get you a job as soon as you leave. He did get kicked out, and then I think the next week he was working with me down at Hinkley Point C. And consequently, fucking the word went round, there's this ex-Royal Engineers surveyor as a manager down at Hinkley Point C, basically recruiting ex-Royal Engineers surveyors. So I had about 3 of them lined up for interview. They all attend the interview, fucking smart as a carrot, twice as crunchy, suited and booted.
Veterans badge,
a lot, core tie. And I sit down with them and I'm like, right, let's just get one thing clear. You've got the job. But let's talk about what you've been doing, sort of thing. And that for me as a manager on a big job like that, I think I had maybe 10, certainly in the early days, about 10 surveyors and engineers. Don't get me wrong, I knew what these ex-engineers were capable of. I knew where their limitations were. I knew if I asked them to do something, they'd do it and they'd want to learn and like absorb that information. And then I had plenty of civilians that I'd recruited that had been doing surveying for years and had that knowledge of working on civvy projects. And combined, I thought it
made a good team.
Yeah, it was that balance.
Yeah.
So I was survey manager down at Hinkley Point C, and Hinkley Point C's down in, North Devon, this nuclear power station we're building, and it's like EDF and Chinese money. I don't know how it works, but EDF, French power utilities company, the client. I ended up being in this senior management directors meeting, and they'd flown their top brass over from France, and a few things had gone wrong. Nothing serious, but a few things were being delayed, and it's quite easy for people to point the fingers at surveyors because nobody really knows what we do, and it's like, it's fucking their fault. And I'm not having this because I'm the manager and I'm sticking up for my team. So I ended up flying into a bit of a rant, which included a lot of effing and blinding, because for me, I don't give a shit whether you're senior management, whether you're the fucking whoever you are. I'm talking to you like I talk to you. So I ended up effing and blinding, and I stopped and I went, forgive my French. And bear in mind, there's all these directors that are French and that. And I'm like, yeah, fuck this. But I don't know, like to me, that loyalty and respect for my team and honesty, that was the biggest thing.
I always found that that I'm Spartacus attitude is gone. Whereas in the army, people either don't say nothing or everyone sort of covers for each other.
Yeah, exactly.
When something happens in the workplace, if everyone owned up to it, then no one can get in trouble for it, if you know, or if everyone just denied everything.
Yeah.
Not saying you should get away with murder, but I notice there's always something. Stuff always gets out to someone.
Yeah.
Someone's can drop someone in the shit because it makes them look good. Then.
Well, that was my other thing. Managing a team was like, what I do expect is honesty. Like, if you fucked up, tell me, because between us we can sort it out. But don't lie to me. Don't bullshit me. And there was one occasion, knew for a fact that one of these guys was lying, and I called him out on it. Basically, he got moved off the project because I said to the director, like, look, he's not part of the team. And that's the biggest thing. I don't give a shit if you fuck up. Like, obviously, I prefer if you didn't, but I want to know about it. I ain't going to tell you off. It'll be like, let's deal with it. Yeah. And I guess it comes back to that thing of civvies looking out for themselves rather than...
Yeah. I know, well, I've been... there's been managers and everyone's going, oh, be careful. He wants to sack someone. And
what?
Yeah, I've known a few. New manager needs to sack someone because it makes him look good. And things like that,
It's like fucking archaic mind games.
There's a disciplinary in a union. It's like, oh, fuck's sake, he's doing it. He ain't sacked no one. Like, he's going to want to sack this person. Things like that. And that's people like that need sorting out in a car park.
Yeah, exactly. But you'd be the bloke that got sacked, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
It was other things. I remember this new lad joined one of the projects I was on, and he was, as you can probably appreciate, like on these big projects, people come from all around the UK and they live near the site. And this lad, he was from North Wales, and he's got a young family, and his missus was pregnant, and I get this email notifying me that he's requested leave and that. So I said to him, I've gone, oh, what, you going anywhere nice sort of thing? And he said, oh, no, I don't know, something had happened, and she was going in for like a scan the next day. I said, well, fucking cancel that leave request. We'll sort that shit out. And he was like, never been in the forces. He was like, what? I was like, fucking, like things like that. Obviously, don't go spreading it around because I'll probably get it in the neck from the senior management. But that to me is like, you don't use holiday for that, mate.
I had it a little while ago where I work in the food industry.
Yeah.
You're not meant to have jewellery, stuff like that. Someone got caught with a necklace or something, chain, by a senior manager. And the first thing they said was, my team leader's got one as well. Instead of, oh shit, sorry, just drop their team leader in it. And you think, their team leader's my mate. And he's like, for fuck's sake, like you just said, their job's to, well, it's probably not their job, but they want to cover for everyone. They don't want any shit off the senior management. If you get caught, just own up to it and nip it in the bud there. But
you have each other's back, don't you?
Yeah.
And the other thing I've learned, and you know this, is about civvies, and this is a word of warning, anyone getting out, civvies, they don't respond to fucking emails.
No, because it makes them accountable then, doesn't it?
But like, I'm not asking them to be accountable for anything. I'm just like, I just find it ridiculous. And I've found this in work over the years. I found it in, so the refereeing stuff I do, the Football Association don't get back to me. Like, it's probably the biggest thing that pisses me off. I understand they're busy, but it doesn't take 2 seconds to say, look, got your email, I'm busy. Yeah. Sound. But not to reply, it's fucking rude.
At my place, they just don't reply. They come and see you. So I was getting taken the piss out of, in the end, I sent my contract to my manager. I sent him a copy of it. I said, just so you know, this is my contract. I suggest you read it.
Yeah.
He phoned me. Can you come and see me in the office? So I've gone in his office in front of all these other people. He started talking to me. He thought, and I put him in his place.
Yeah.
And I said, why don't you email? But he didn't want to email because he was in the wrong.
Okay.
And by him responding to my email, he's admitting that he's in the wrong.
Yeah, it's in writing. I get that.
And it happens quite a lot, especially where I work. Like say the managers, they don't reply. They're liable then.
Yeah, I can see that.
Just a courtesy thing, isn't it?
Like, I'd be happy if any of these people that I'm waiting on emails or communications from, I'd drive to go and see them. I just want a response, like, please.
A bit like my nightclub in Amesbury thing.
Oh yeah, go on. Get it in.
Stickies,
is it?
Yeah, finally got a few. I've got too many bloody. Stop bloody messaging me, people.
You don't want it now.
I've had a few people messaging. Stickies, we've come up with the name.
Yeah.
Apparently, it used to have garden furniture inside as furniture.
Fucking hell.
Probably all got smashed up so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was Stickies in Amesbury.
Happy days. How did you find finding purpose and meaning in life afterwards? Well, I mean, that sounds a bit weak, but...
Sounds a bit like Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So for me, one of the biggest things was what I've come to realise is as much as we slag off the military, like I was proud to be a British soldier.
Yeah.
And if I went into a bar or a pub and you get chatting to someone you don't know, what do you do? Oh, I'm in the British Army, mate. It's like something to be proud of. And then like I left and I had good, well-paid jobs as a survey manager on some large construction jobs. But for me, it was like I didn't have that purpose, that sense of pride. And by the end, certainly, I was like more concerned about the welfare of my teams than building jobs, which, coming back to that money thing, like the project managers were like, mate, like you need to sort it out. And obviously, like
You just sound like the best boss ever, really. But
I didn't want to blow my own trumpet, but some of these civvies, not the ex-forces blokes, like that had been around the block a bit. Bogdan, if you're listening, he might be listening actually. Like, you're one of the best bosses I've ever had.
The best bosses for people below you, but the worst person.
Yeah.
If you're the company owner,
the senior management hated me. Fucking hated me.
Done. But you built him a lovely shower.
Oh, built no. Road, or well, it wasn't.
Road to a shower.
Yeah. As I've shared before, like about the addiction and drinking and snorting loads of coke. Looking back now, it was that I didn't have that sense of purpose. And for me, what we're doing now, it gives me that sense of pride that I'm doing something worthwhile, something meaningful, than either lining someone's pockets or building a road. I don't know if you can relate to any of that.
Yeah, 100%. Like I say, I worked on a railway fixing trains. Now I work in a factory fixing machines. It's pretty boring.
Yeah.
And that's why I sent all my time off, which I do get a lot of time off, thankfully, is I devote my time to veterans and things like that. Whether it's charity work, selling poppies in November, or now this, and I tell everyone to do that. Just do something to make your community, whether it's military or your local community.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be veterans, does it?
Why
It
do you
could
have to be paid to do something?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, isn't it?
If I got paid for all the voluntary work I've done, I'd be.
Yeah. Funny you say that. So my first car was the M3. So over the years, I had like a Porsche 911 AMG C63. I'd go on holiday to Vegas, to Dubai, and that. I'd be earning a lot.
And I flash wanker.
Well, no, I was a massive flash wanker, but I was a fucking miserable. If I look back, honestly, I was a miserable. Like everything had to be out there trying to fill this hole I had in my life with flashness. Since I left my last rehab, I started volunteering at my local drug and alcohol service and doing the stuff we do at a muster point. I've never been so skint in my life, but I've never been fucking happier.
Yeah, you've got to have a balance in life, and you can earn some serious dough, but be really unhappy.
Yeah,
at the same time. I know people that fuck all. They've got 5 kids. Don't go. Well, they go on their son holidays. But they're happy.
Yeah, exactly.
But you've got to have a balance in life, I think.
And I think it's maybe that thing which comes with age and experience. To the younger listeners, it's not all about the money. It's not all about being the project manager. Look closer to home, of what you can do to.
Because, like you say, being a manager of any kind, when at the end of the day, when everyone goes home, you're still getting emails. You're still there's that as well. It's not just a high flying job. There's a lot of responsibility with that.
Yeah.
Wait until your time comes. That's what I'd say.
And do you have any advice for someone that's listening to this, thinking about getting out?
Speak to people who are out. Do some networking.
Yeah.
Which is where I feel like when I was leaving, there was this recruiting website thing. I forgot what it's called now. Forces. No, I don't know what it was. But it was a job searching system for people leaving the army.
Yeah.
And there weren't many jobs there. I remember there was a lot of extras job.
Yeah.
Go and work on a film set.
Yeah.
What fucking good's that to anyone? That's not a career, is it?
Nah,
I know some people make a career out of it, but and it was just a load of bollocks. Why bother? There are websites out there, especially now. It's really good now, but you can sign up to recruiting agencies, which I know you've got to be careful with them because they sell your dreams. I don't know. I'd say just speak to your friends who've got out before you.
Speak to us.
Ask us. We've got friends all over the country. Get in touch. Ask us any questions. I've had people messaging me today saying he's currently in his resettlement. There's colleges all over the country. Once I know a bit more, I'll let people know. But it's all about construction skills.
Yeah.
And he's becoming an instructor. Although we were talking earlier, it doesn't. Just because you're doing a plastering course doesn't make you a plasterer. Yeah. And that's what people need to be careful of. Yeah. You do your resettlement as a plasterer, you ain't a plasterer. Yeah. You'll be laughed at if you turn up at a building site. And it's not a horrible
brand new trowel.
Yeah. Which is where your civvy friends come in. If you've got civvy friends that are plasterers, they might be able to take you on. A couple of months of working on a site, you'd be just as good. But it's getting
What is it? I don't know about that.
But no, it's learning the tricks of the trade.
It's about realising that you work at the bottom and work your way up.
Yeah. Like I say, you might do a bricklaying course, but you might have to, run up the ladder with a hod, knock up for a bit, and you learn.
No, you learn the basics, don't you? My bit of advice to people, and this includes whether you're thinking about getting out, in the process of getting out, or you're a veteran, is those recruitment agencies. There's so many recruitment agencies out there. They have like a military themed name, and they go, we want to jobs for veterans and all this. Just be very fucking mindful, because ultimately they're businesses that are there to make money, right? And we'll come on to the Bravo Zulu shout out, because I've got 2 recruitment they're not recruitment agencies, they're organisations which support veterans or service personnel with careers post.
And they're creditable sort of.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
And the other thing, and I don't know if we mentioned it, I know we've spoken about it, but I don't know whether we've mentioned it on previous episodes. Your likes of your British Gases, your BTs and all this, having, we want veterans, we want forces, people that are thinking about getting out, just be very mindful, because I've been to these places, there's an expectation that I'm gonna have a job because I'm a veteran, and that's not the case. Yeah. Just don't, as Steve says, just make sure, do your networking, speak to us, speak to just network and find out, and just don't expect anything from just being a veteran or having served.
What I'd say as well is start well before you've even signed off. Start thinking about it.
Yeah.
Start thinking. What can I do? Can I do little courses? You've got to pay for it out of your own pocket. But there's a lot of free courses you can do. start thinking about it well before. That's what I'd say.
Yeah.
Have a plan well ahead.
Because
And start networking well ahead. Even I'm not a bit of a. If you are thinking about getting into the building trade, speak to people. Can't do a bit of work.
You get 6 weeks summer leave,
yeah,
didn't you?
exactly.
Like,
yeah,
fucking...
can't do a bit. I'm sure, especially the smaller building firms. I'm sure they'll be glad to help you out. They'll pay you peanuts, but it's experience.
Exactly, and that's the main thing, experience. So earlier on, we asked the question, what's been the biggest challenge or surprise after leaving the military? We're going to ring Bingo, your mate Bingo Bongo, and talk about his transition. But have you had any stories sent in?
I've had loads. I'll just read a couple out. So Mark Worcester.
Any useful ones?
Yeah, Mark Worcester, he said, phoning the GP. This is the biggest shock he had. Phoning the GP at 1 minute past opening time and being number 31 in the queue. Said it makes the med centre look like private healthcare. So, and old Fivehead, he said it shocked him having to pay more than £100 for a house a month. So, mate, Guy, he left the army last week. He says when you're serving, you feel like you have a purpose, and he's hoping he feels the same way in his new job, which so far he's enjoying.
That's good. He's only been out a week. Give it a chance, mate. Fucking hell. Who's he working for? Do we know?
Fixes tractors. I don't know if he wants me to say the company, but yeah.
Right, so-
But no, he found it. I don't know if he found it through the career transition workshop type of thing, but they did like a work experience with him, I think.
Yeah.
See if he fitted in, I think. See if he'd enjoy it and see if they can offer.
You've also been contacted by someone that's still serving but that wants to remain anonymous.
Yeah, this person, he said, like, he's been in a long time, and he says it's shocking the lack of support for serving and people leaving. He said there's a lack of money, equipment and personnel, disappearing incentives, and he said regiments are spread so thin due to the high number of commitments. He said, like, he can understand why people want to get out.
Yeah.
He said, like, should we deploy to Ukraine? What happens if we don't? Should we leave the Russians, the land grab, and expand further into the region?
Yeah.
Where would it stop if we allowed it to? These questions can only be asked by politicians at the end of the day.
Yeah. Did he say something about
He
offering some support?
Yeah. Well, he said whatever the outcome, he's sure the British forces would do us proud. He'd like anyone to know, anyone in the Salisbury Plain area, if they're getting out and they've got questions or whatever, he's very clued up in the system, welfare, stuff like that. If you want to go walk the dog together, whatever, go for a walk and have a chat. He said he's more than happy to help anyone. So if anyone wants that, a bit of advice from someone who should know what they're on about, get in touch with us. We can put you in touch with him.
Yeah, that's good. We'll do this phone call to Bingo, see what he's on about, see what he's got to say.
Hello, mate.
Hello, mate. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you all right.
You got time?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Always got time for you, Steve.
Oh.
Always got time for you.
Thanks, babe. It's been a while, mate. You all right?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad, mate.
Yeah, so like, this episode, it's more about getting...
I'm Stu, by the way.
We've got Stu here as well. Stu, this is Bingo.
How you doing, Bingo? You all right?
Stu the wedgehead.
Wedgehead.
Yeah, I remember people calling engineers wedgeheads.
Really? I was never privy to that one.
Yeah.
Was that like a secret
what-
take, was it?
Do you want to explain it?
Welcome to it now.
Yeah. I'm loving it. Tell me more about it.
That's all I know.
Oh, right.
I think I heard,
Yeah.
right, that the Royal Artillery run away from their guns and the Royal Engineers
Yeah.
captured the guns, I say. But then I heard that the Royal Engineers were using dead Royal Engineer heads to wedge the wheels in or something.
Well, I know. So obviously the artillery are our nemesis. We hate them. And the Royal Artillery wear yellow lanyards on their twos.
On the wrong arm as well, isn't it?
It's a sign of cowardice because they run away from their guns and the engineers took over.
Yeah.
That's all I know.
But like I heard, the Royal Engineers used heads. Don't know.
So what we're saying is it's the artillery's fault then, basically.
Yeah. Oh yeah, fucking definitely.
Yeah.
Splitters.
All right.
So do you want to just quickly tell us what regiment you was in, what unit you was in?
Well, I was in a very specialist unit, Steve, called the 2nd Royal Tank Regiment. I don't know if you've heard about it.
I might have done. What was it? What was your role in that specialist unit?
Oh, just a general dog's body, drinker of alcohol.
Look busy down the tank park.
Yeah, troublemaker. fighter type person. But no, I've done most of the crew positions really. I've done driver, gunner, got to the dizzy heights of operator, but never anything else. I made the nosebleeding heights of Lance Corporal before I left, and then I've done the usual operational tours. Optelic, I've done Op Oculus over in Kosovo. Stayed around for about 9 years. Wouldn't class myself as a super soldier by any sense of the imagination. Wouldn't say my face overly fitted either, but the problem with me is I wasn't bothered in making it fit either. So
I seem to remember you was a little bit outspoken as well. You said what you thought.
Well, that's very rude of you, Steve. I was a little bit outspoken, and I got to the point where I'd done my operational tours in the army and stuff, and didn't really want to stay around. I loved the army whilst we were away doing army bits, but the usual camp bullshit and nonsense was not for me.
When did you get out, Bingo? What?
I got out sort of like end of 2010.
Yeah.
End of 2010. You got a choice to make, haven't you? You hang around. You hang around because there's nothing else that you want to do, or you get out when you're young enough to go do something else. And I thought that I would just stay in and get bitter, and just decided to move on, really.
Did you do resettlement?
I did, mate, yeah. So I went away. At the time, the close protection industry was massive, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was draining blokes left, right and centre from all regiments of the army, really. So when I was on Optelic 9, I met this bloke, fucking Ray-Bans on and all the Gucci stuff
Oakleys.
that none of us had ever seen. We'd never seen half of the stuff that he had on him.
G-Shock watch.
And I started talking to him, and I was like, just being a nosy cunt. Who are you? He told me, and he started talking about the money he'd earned, and I was like, oh, I'm sold here. So I came back, and I was like, so let me get this straight. You do all of the stuff that I like doing with none of the bullshit, and you get paid that much money. Right, well, yeah, see ya. So I came back, done my resettlement. I've done the close protection operators course with a company called Longmore Security, and that was it really. I sort of, before that, I'd been posted as like kind of a retention posting to try and keep me in. They sent me down to Bovington as the director of the Royal Armoured Corps staff car driver. Well, let me tell you now, that did not retain me. So at the end of it, I got out and done that course, and that was it really. I got one for you about the biggest fuck ups. So the Drax, he's a fucking brigadier general, and I crashed his car, and I crashed it in spectacular fashion. I mean, I fucking rolled it in that. I had to think quick, like, oh shit. Right, yeah. So anyway, there was this car coming around the corner, and I had to move quickly, and I rolled your car, sir. And he fucking brought it as well.
What was the?
And I got away with it.
What really happened?
There was a car coming around the corner really quick, Stephen. Just so happened to be it was my car coming around the corner really quickly.
So the close protection course you'd done, did you have to self-fund that, or did the MOD or the military contribute to it at all?
So I'd done the whole. I got the full resettlement, and they paid for it. But needless to say, these companies that run these courses, they know what you're entitled to the fucking penny, don't they? So it just so happened that the course was down to the last pence that the army was going to give me, and they paid for it. They've done a few hard sales whilst you're on the course as well for medical this and medical that, and so they managed to upsell it to a couple of us, and we spent our own money as well doing bits and pieces.
Yeah. And was you guaranteed a job afterwards, or was there still the risk?
We fuck. So back then there was a lot of that going on, and there was a lot of training providers taking your money, promising you the world, and you wouldn't get a look in. It was still very much do the job and go out and scrap for one afterwards, so you got to pass the course, and then you throw yourself into like a pool of ex-Royal Marines, paratroopers, infanteers, and all that sort of shit, and I'm stood there as a tanky like, yeah, Yeah, you're definitely the odd one out.
Yeah. So how long was it before you got your first job?
So I fell into a bit of a bad time, really, mate. When I left the army, lost a bit of direction. I've heard a couple of you say it before. You lose that family, don't you? And you lose that your friends and all that sort of stuff. And I got myself into a load of trouble. I was just like drinking and fighting and just generally being a cunt, I think, for about.
But you can't get away with it in Civvy Street, can you?
Well, no, you can't. You can't. And it probably took me, I would say, about 5 months to get a job after doing that. And that was after having sort of doors slammed in my face. About 4 or 5 interviews into like being told, nah. I thought, oof, I've probably wasted that money now. And then I just sent a really belligerent email one day to someone like, well, I hear you're taking on, I've got this, that and the other. What's the score? They brought me down for an interview and I got a job that day. And I went out to Afghanistan working for a company called Blue Hackle Middle East. And I worked with them for a very long time on like various sort of close protection gigs, stuff directly linked to ISAF and NTMA. And what kind of surprised me was just how reliant the military was on private provision of everything, really. Yeah. So that was my first sort of look into the contract there. Contracting there was that gig in Afghanistan with Blue Hackle Middle East.
And what was the money like? Was it the footballers' pop star wages that you'd been promised?
Yeah. So when I first got into it, it was very much like that, but you paid for the risk, it was fucking spicy, and things went on. Like it wasn't a case of if, it was when, like all the lads that
you didn't have that support that the British forces have.
We call that the big green telephone.
Yeah.
And there's no big green telephone, mate. It's you and you and the blokes around you, and quite often your balls and a bit of like blazing behaviour. Really, that's all there is to it. It's very much like a self-rescue thing. But then other contracts you go on that are linked directly to like the Department of Defence. I've worked for the American Department of Defence. You get everything. Yeah. You're entitled to the support. You're entitled to Pedro and Mert and all that kind of stuff. So there is differences, different things out there,
I suppose
so
it depends if they want to associate themselves with you or not, I suppose.
Well, mate, and a lot of the stuff we're doing, they don't want to associate with because that's why they pay us to do it. It is, and a lot of it was, there's some grey moral areas in some of it.
I know we spoke on a previous episode about the likes of your Dave the IT worker from Birmingham going out and fighting against ISIS, and there's been stories in the news recently about young UK lads with no military experience going out and fighting Ukraine, which is all very honourable, I guess. But what's your views on these, as I said, like random people from IT or catering or whatever, just dropping everything and going out there?
Like in relation to the circuit or just generally?
Well, just generally, because the thing I say is obviously the big green telephone, as you called it, but like being in essence a mercenary, you don't have any backup and a lot of these blokes don't have even any training. At least in your world of CP, you're working alongside professional people. Do you know what I mean?
So when I first got into it, it was very like unlegislated, and you had the likes of Blackwater getting up to what they were doing and all that kind of business, and generally painted the private security industry in like quite a bad light. Yeah. But what I will say is, as the industry's grown and it's kind of like modernized, it is extremely legislated now. Yeah. Like, you need to prove your background, you need to prove your credence, if you like, and you need to be able to like justify your space there. And it's not easy to get on there. But in relation to people going to, fight in Ukraine and stuff like that with no training, I mean, it's an honourable concept, isn't it? Yeah. They're not sat at home in front of ITV News telling everyone how bad it is. They're doing something about it, aren't they? But I think if you look at the wider impact of that, and are they an asset or are they a hindrance? I think their mindset's great, and they've got some balls to put down the biscuits and go for it. But personally, I don't think it's the right thing for them to do now.
Yeah, you said it took you a while to get that first job. So since
Yeah.
taking that first job, have you been comfortably employed? Has there been any moments where you've been out of work?
It's a very reputational based thing, and providing you don't drop any massive bollocks along the way, it's very much a word. Despite people saying it's not, they'll talk about nepotism and all that shite. It very much is a word of mouth. Look, this geezer's all right. He's good. Let's bring him on. There was a point when I was leaving Afghanistan. I spent 6 years in Afghanistan on the circuit. There was a point where I was leaving, and I thought, I really haven't got anything here. I'm not ex-Hereford, I'm not ex-Pool, I'm not like Marine Commando, whatever. The only thing I'd had going for me was someone saying, "Oh, this dude's all right. He's done okay." And when people see you doing the job, because when it goes wrong quickly.
Yeah.
When people see you doing the job and see you're not going to melt away, that kind of stuff does carry you forward. But I decided that I needed to go and get something behind me that was a bit more than, he's all right, that guy. So I went off and trained to become a paramedic. So I became a paramedic off the back of that to sort of offer me, a bit more of a shiny appearance, if you like, something else I could bring to a team rather than, I worked with him once. So I'd done that basically, and that was sort of my effort, if you like, of making myself a bit more employable and a bit more,
Did you do
a bit
that?
more of an asset.
Did you do that and then go back on the circuit as a paramedic?
Yeah. So what I'd done, mate, is I'd done the paramedic course was a complete lick out, to be honest. It's 3 years, so I had a big break. But what I'd done was almost like an apprenticeship model of it, really.
Yeah.
So I was getting paid to train,
Oh, right, yeah.
So I'd done that, and I qualified, and then it really did kind of like skyrocket me for future positions, sort of like Somalia, Yemen, Ukraine, and stuff like that have all been very
nice
much
places.
part of it's really kind of helped project me, really.
Yeah. That's good. So, and what is going forward? I take it you don't want to be on the circuit as much. You want to look at the paramedics.
Yeah. So I still, when I come home, I'm quite active on the ambulances. I'll come home and do like normal paramedic stuff. I've taken quite a key role in like training people and mentoring people. So I'd like to do that, really. One of the companies I work with as well, I know you like the old plugs about military friendly employers and stuff. So one of the companies I work with, they actively seek veterans. They attend careers transition partnership workshops and all that sort of stuff. They offer kind of like apprenticeship roles and so on. So I can give you the details of them when I bug out later.
Yeah, please. Yeah. Text us the details. Yeah, definitely. Because obviously people in the army, especially, I can't speak for the Air Force and Navy, but we're all trained to quite a high level of first aid, if you like. I know you don't get the qualifications as such, but I'd imagine that's a big help if you're going to get into that sort of stuff. You'll have a good head start.
I mean, the baseline knowledge is there, isn't it? I mean, there's lots of like pink and fluffy and shiny bits that we need to add on it for normal life. But I think one of the things people like about us is that 9 times out of 10 we're going to be on time in the right place with the right kit and the right attitude. Yeah. And that kind of stuff is not as normal as you think for people that have been elsewhere, and not had the kind of backgrounds that we do. Yeah. It's probably one of the things that you can get all the qualifications you want in the military and be a fucking, a range controller or whatever. That doesn't mean anything when you come out. No, it's the attitude and the mindset that counts. That carries forward, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Have you got any advice for people who want to get into the CP world?
I would say that, like, really do your due diligence. Have a look at your own circumstances and your background. Ask yourself, is there anything that's going to stop you progressing? And that could be little things like criminal records, the inability to be able to get an SIA license. These companies use that as like a cheap form of vetting. Yeah. If you can't get that, doesn't matter who you are, they won't have you. And there's a big thing a while ago about these training providers taking money, and this money is life-changing money to a lot of veterans, isn't it? The people that are leaving probably ain't ever going to get that cash again. Yeah. So it's a bit of a strike bag move to take that from somebody when fine, well, they're not going to get a job. The financial expectations of the role, look, there are still good paying jobs out there. I'm very fortunate at the moment to be on one myself. But it's not the thousands and thousands and thousands anymore that it was. I mean, the money has kind of dropped out the arse of the industry a bit. Yeah. Where there was 30, 40, 50 companies going years ago, there's probably about 5 or 6 now decent ones that have weathered the storm and stayed going, you know.
Yeah. So what are your plans for the near future?
Yeah, so at the moment I'm working in Ukraine. I am working in Ukraine at the moment. I'm working on a diplomatic mission in Ukraine. I've been there pretty much since the full-scale invasion. So the plan is to finish that off, and I'm not going to lie, it's probably going to involve a holiday with white sand and somebody bringing me cocktails until I vomit.
Weymouth.
Way beef.
Yeah, Harry's.
Brilliant, mate. Really appreciate everything you shared with us, mate, and I say the advice you've give.
Yeah, no, it's been great. Been great catching up.
Yeah, we'll have to talk again because I feel like you've got a little bit more you could possibly share with us.
Well, yeah, let us know, mate, and what I can share, I'll share. But can you also call the Raff Reg bloke a toilet from me?
Toilet.
Oh, Chizzard.
Yeah,
Chizzard's the lady's favourite.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's obviously he takes the banter well, so I couldn't leave the phone call without dropping it on him.
Yeah, damn right.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Cheers, Bingo, mate. Thanks.
All right, cheers for that, Bingo. We'll speak to you again
All right,
soon.
mate.
Stay safe, yeah?
Take care, mate. Bye.
Yeah.
Cheers.
See you, mate. Bye.
So that was Steve's mate, Bingo.
Yeah.
What did he call Royal Engineers?
Wedgeheads.
Wedgeheads.
We'll have to ask little Mick about that.
Yeah, get little Mick on the case. I've never heard that one, but
That's the only name I've ever heard engineers being called.
So for example, there was. Do you know I sent you that video of those engineers doing that fucking weird rap thing?
Oh, they create maps or something.
Yeah. So that's a we called them coneheads. And saying that, the clerk of works I was on about earlier on, they were referred to as coneheads, like geeks.
Yeah,
fucking.
I thought that would have been like Ink Core type thing. I didn't know. That's the thing people don't realise, and that's obviously another episode. But obviously the tank regiment do tanks, but there are other roles you can do in the tank regiment. But the engineers and the REME and things like that, there's so many, and the signals. There's a lot of not just technical roles. There's a lot of roles you can do.
Yeah. Ham rolls, cheese rolls.
Yeah. It's the RLC. The next part's called Muckers Remembered. And Stu, I believe you've got 2 Royal Engineers that we want to remember.
So the 7th of March marks the 16th anniversary of the Mazarine barrack shooting, where sappers Mark Quincy and Patrick Azim Carr were brutally murdered by the real IRA. Both young soldiers were unarmed, simply waiting for pizza before the deployment to Afghanistan, when gunmen opened fire. Shot and then executed where they lay, their lives were taken in a cowardly act of terror. We remember Mark and Patrick not just as soldiers, but as sons, brothers and friends. 2 young men who never came home. Their sacrifice will never be forgotten. I was on my B1 combat engineering course. That was out in Germany when the news came out about this Mazarine barrack shooting. So it was 2009.
See, that's the thing, the IRA stuff, the real IRA, whatever terrorist group it is, it still happens, you know.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure today, the MI6, MI5, all these other agencies are probably still stopping stuff happening.
Yeah, of course. A mate of mine who I went through training with was actually with Mark and Patrick to get the pizzas, and he's lucky to be alive.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to mention his name. He basically wasn't allowed back in Northern Ireland, I believe, because of fear of like the one that got away and what have you.
Yeah,
and
it's probably like a trophy, isn't it?
Yeah. So he was there, and he's lucky to be alive. And I think that they were the 2 pizza delivery drivers were Polish. I'm sure one of them, or maybe both of them, lost their lives. But yeah, like you say, Steve, it's people think Ireland was a long time ago, like the fight with the IRA. And okay, this was 16 years ago, this incident, but it still goes on.
Yeah.
And the security services have to be on the ball. They can't just switch off to it.
Yeah, and, they don't get any recognition whatsoever.
No, yeah, they can't, can they? But
yeah. Well, something else I'd like to, when it comes to the security service and stuff, is the police, especially the Met Police. I don't normally do things like this, but I'd like to shout out to the ones that protect the ceremonial soldiers, because I've seen a lot of videos recently of people with especially with horses grabbing the reins and touching them, and the police are straight on them normally, but it's almost becoming a bit of a trend to get a reaction.
Yeah, TikTok videos and that.
Yeah,
I saw one where there was that young lad who was goading the horse.
Yeah,
and like gobbing off. Yeah, this fucking unit of a fucking armed copper just like twisted him up and fucking had him off like.
But I've seen now they've got like a panic button.
Yeah.
And it looks like an emergency stop button. It's sad that it's got to,
exactly.
100 years, 200 years, however long they've been there. Don't get me wrong, when the tank regiment, they're Remembrance Sunday, the week after Remembrance Sunday, and when we marched through the arches at Horse Guard, there was always a arsehole cavalry bloke stood there, a dismounted one, and he used to get some stick slaps around the face. Yeah, but no one could see that, so that's all right. But I don't get these young people and old people, to be fair, and the tourists, it's almost like
they
just
love it, don't they?
Yeah, grabbing the reins and things like that. It's so wrong.
Yeah.
But they'll probably put a fence around it soon.
They stand in a way and that, don't they?
Yeah.
And you get the old, make way for the King's Guard.
Yeah. And it is just to get a reaction.
Yeah, it's fucking stupid civvies, isn't it? Fucking hate them. I am one, though, so I hate myself.
Civvy wanker.
Yeah. Right, now we're coming on to the Bravo Zulu shout-out, where we talk about an organisation, charity, whatever, doing good things for veterans or the armed forces. And the topic of today has been that transition and the big bad world of employment and jobs in civvy life. Well, I mentioned earlier on that for people listening to be cautious and wary of expectations with some of these recruitment agencies, but these are two organisations that I think are more legitimate. So the first one's the Poppy Factory. The Poppy Factory is a branch of the British Legion, and they specifically support injured veterans or their families with support into careers. I've actually worked with the Poppy Factory firsthand. So when I think it was near when I first came out and I was looking for employment, and I got in contact with them, and I got assigned a caseworker. It was almost like Safa, but this person was a recruitment specialist, and they lined up interviews. They spoke about CVs. They spoke about what I could do and just give me ideas. And it was very personable. Like, it wasn't just, oh, yeah, we'll look for a job and fuck you off. It was like face-to-face meetings. It was really good. And I know, as I said, that there is a prerequisite that you have to have been injured. And that's not just physically, like mental health and stuff like that. But I think it's worth highlighting that this service is out there, this organisation.
If you're struggling for work and you meet the criteria,
definitely. That would be the first place I'd go, 100%. And interestingly, the Poppy Factory is a place in West London, isn't it? It's actually where they make...
Is it near Twickenham?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I believe it's an old brewery.
Okay.
I think the person who started the British Legion, I think he bought this old brewery, and they become the Poppy Factory.
Yeah, because that's where they handmade the poppies.
Yeah,
and I think that an element of that still goes on.
Yeah, I believe it is still veterans who make the poppies.
Yeah, I mean...
I think you can go and visit there as well. You probably have to pay a little bit, but it'd be interesting to go and watch these people making stuff.
Yeah. Join in.
Yeah.
Why not?
Make your own poppy.
Exactly.
But,
as I said, my experience of the Poppy Factory were good. And if you do meet the criteria, I'll put the links in the show notes as always. That would be my first point of call, 100%.
Yeah.
So the second one I want to talk about is the Forces Employment Charity. If you Google that, as Steve says, or as I'll put it in the show notes, but the Forces Employment Charity, they're involved with some of these government ops, Op Prosper, Op Ascend, which are all to do with recruitment and employment. And also what comes under their banner is Op Nova. Now, I haven't had personal experiences with these. However, I do work closely with the area rep for Op Nova, and I've got nothing but good to say about them. And for me, looking through their stuff, it's the fact that they're involved with these government-backed ops. To me, they're a bit more legitimate than your sort of normal business-run recruitment agency who are like vultures just jumping on that veteran thing.
Yeah, but they get a commission, don't they, for every contract they secure.
And it's worth noting that, so it's the Forces Employment Charity, because when you Google it, there's other recruitment agencies that come up that look the same, which is fucking bollocks. And it goes back to that thing of being mindful and doing your research. But
do your 5 and 20s.
Do your 5 and 20s, yeah. But as I said, so these are two. If you're struggling with employment, if you meet the criteria for the Poppy Factory, get on them. And if you don't, the Forces Recruitment Charity will be your next stop.
Yeah.
They're the two I'm happy to promote. Like,
yeah. No, I've got another Bravo Zulu.
Oh, go on. More the merrier, mate. Yeah. That's what I say.
A bloke called Russ has reached out and he's asked us to mention, I've mentioned them in a previous podcast, but the Military Veterans Football Club.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a breakfast club type thing. It's just a way of networking, a way of socialising. But it's run by veterans, for veterans, and they do like 5-a-side kickabouts nationwide. It's tri-service. It's a bit of fizz back in the tribe, good for mental health and the shit crack. Anyone's welcome, regardless of ability, age, what service you was in or length of service. It was established in 2022. 350 veterans and serving forces registered to it. And they offer a safe and positive environment where people can just be themselves. It promotes physical and mental well-being and reduces social isolation by recreating the camaraderie and friendship we all enjoyed when we were serving. And they're looking to expand into other areas. So please look them up. And say if you
we got a web page for them also.
Yeah, we'll put a link on.
Yeah, sound.
If you just Google Military Veterans Football Club, you can see it.
Yeah.
But I think it started in Sunderland. When I was at Millwall the other week, that was part of it. You know, it's growing and it's a great thing. Like I say, I can't run because I'm a fat bastard, but I like going down the cafe and having a breakfast. So for me, the breakfast clubs are the greatest thing.
And you look good in a cheerleader's outfit, didn't you?
I do.
I'm still waiting.
A water boy.
A water boy, yeah. Are these the outfit that want me to come down and referee the Watford v Royal Tank Regiment game?
I'm not so sure.
You're not so sure?
Yeah. My mate Chrissy B, he organised the Millwall versus...
all right, so it may not come under their umbrella.
No, but it's the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
And like I say, it's growing.
Yeah.
And so just get in touch with them or just have a look on their website.
Yeah. If you like football.
Yeah.
If you don't. Yeah.
But still, if you don't, go and watch a game.
Yeah.
There's people, there's veterans watching the game. Go and have a laugh. If it's local to you or you don't want to drive, go and have a look.
All right, so that's almost it for another week, isn't it? So we've covered some transitions into Civvy Street. We've spoken to your mate Bingo.
We have.
We're going to have a bit of bonus material, aren't we? We're going to have I don't know whether it'll be every week, but certainly look out for what we calling it, Steve? The Muster Point podcast Beyond the Wire.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to be an additional episode where we're going to have some interviews, and I think we've lined up an interview with a US Marine Corps veteran, so we're going to speak to him about...
Be very interesting.
To
see how they do things, how different they are to us.
Yeah, or how much the same they are. You never know.
Oh, exactly, yeah. Well, we know their rations are better.
Yeah, we know their rations are better, so we're going to speak to him, and we've got some other possible interviews lined up with organisations. It's sort of like maybe like an expansion of the Bravo Zulu shout out.
Yeah.
But yeah, so keep an eye out for that.
Well, we've had a few people's comments.
Yeah.
We've had our news, our weekly news.
Yeah, the news was a bit
grim.
Yeah. But this is the thing. So I sort of stopped watching the news because it's never fucking like, I remember back in the day, I used to be pissed off that the news would report like some 90-year-old granny's like knitted a fucking 100-foot scarf or something. But now I look forward to stories like that because I'd rather that than the fucking misery and depression that's going on in the world.
Yeah, I don't tend to watch the news, but I've got the apps. I've got 2 or 3 apps, and I flick through them. Don't take between the 3 or 4 apps I've got. You know, I take a pinch of salt from all of them.
Yeah.
Come up with my own conclusions, which is normally really bad.
And at the beginning of the podcast, we mentioned about the Big Tommy sleep out. We'd like to commend anyone that done it and raised money and raised awareness.
Yeah, let us know
if anyone is more involved with the Royal British Legion Institute. I'd just like clarification where you got your statistic of 7,000 UK veterans rough sleeping on the streets.
The government should be saying this, not us. You know, Because they should be saying,
Well, this is why we're here, Steve, to fucking try and get answers and hold people accountable, as you say.
Yeah.
I mentioned about Ian Duncan Smith.
Yep.
This week, I've queued up all our press releases to go out about the podcast to all the major news outlets. So we may be coming to a TV screen near you if the story gets picked up about the podcast and what our aim is and holding people accountable, because I do honestly believe most of the commentators that you see on Good Morning Britain and all this, they're so far removed from your man on the ground, your family that's had to deal with someone coming back injured, getting that phone call. And we want to be a voice for the many instead of the few. Does that make sense? Or is that a bit fucking gay saying that?
Sounds like the Labour Party.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Don't want to be associated with any political.
No, I'm apolitical. I don't. If you're in power, I'll badger you with questions about veterans and getting more support. Maybe we should bring it up, Steve, about what we spoke about off air. About, obviously, last week I spoke about my infidel tattoo and how it looks like JLS.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the fact that you've just bought a tattoo gun. So we're thinking, if the listeners, and we'll film it, of Steve tattooing me and covering up my JLS tattoo on my back, if we raise some money for the muster point.
I think we could do something. I'll say I'm good at drawing cocks.
Yeah. Big veiny ones, you said.
Big veiny cocks, big spunking cock with hairy balls.
So I guess the question is, listeners, let us know by email or by WhatsApp.
Yeah, I know Chizard would be happy with this. He'd be more than happy for people to have their names on his back. £2 a go.
So if you want Steve to cover up my JLS tattoo, or if you want your name tattooed on Chizard's back, let us know at steve@themasterpoint.org.uk or contact us on WhatsApp. And one final thing, next week's episode is...
Next week's episode is the funniest or most howling punishments.
Oh, nice.
So let us know.
Yeah, start sending in your stories now. All right, before we wrap this up, we want to hear from you. This podcast isn't just about us reminiscing about life in uniform. It's about making sure none of us are marching through Civvy Street alone.
Yeah, we know that leaving the military can be a bit like being dropped in a foreign country with no map, no translator, and a distinct feeling that everyone's got different rules that no one told you about.
So tell us, what's been your biggest surprise, struggle, or funniest moment since leaving the military? Did you turn up to a civvy job interview in a suit that still smelled like the armoury? Did you have to stop yourself from calling your boss sir? Or maybe you're still wondering why civvies can't just crack on and get things done.
We want your stories. Get in touch on social media. Find us on Facebook at The Muster Point Veterans, X at The Muster Point, TikTok at The Muster Point, and YouTube at The Muster Point Veterans. Or if you're feeling brave, send us a voice note of your best. I really wasn't prepared for civvy life moment.
And to those out there doing great work for veterans, whether it's helping with jobs, mental health, or just making sure no one's struggling in silence, get in touch and we'll give you a shout out in a future episode.
Make sure to subscribe to The Muster Point on your favourite podcast platform. Leave us a review and share this episode with your mates. Think of it like passing down vital knowledge, except with fewer PowerPoint presentations and less chance of getting beasted for being late.
Next week, we're tackling punishments, the outright howling or absolute hilarious. So don't miss it. And with that, parade, fall up!
You heard him. See you next week.